and welcome wherever you are in the world to, or rather, it's been a very sunny Salzburg today here at the Hangar 7. This is the Gran Turismo World Series Showdown Nations Cup Grand Final and finals, semi-finals today. We've got all the finals. Like we said, we're coming to you live from Salzburg. This is day 2 of our weekend of some incredible racing we've had here today. Yesterday was, of course, the Manufacturers' Cup, where we had some pretty emotional scenes from Danny Solis there. Guys, what do you think? I mean, it's Nations Cup now, so it's every driver for themselves. Are we going to see that same level of emotion and heart today? What do you reckon?
I think so. Nations Cup tends to be a bit more leery than Manufacturers. As you say, it's every man for himself, elbows out. all the politeness that you see behind the scenes just leaves for a bit, and we tend to get some pretty fantastic racing.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, there's more opportunity for things to go wrong here as well. We had one race yesterday, we've got regional finals here today, we've got a repechage. I can't wait for the repechage.
Okay, it's been a little while since we've had a repechage, which is one of my favourite things, because it does tend to get a little bit on the spicy side. And we have got 29 competitors who have been lined up, ready to fight for today. Look at them all. This was earlier on today. Exceedingly excited they were. Well, some exceedingly excited. Obviously, the Nations Cup, there's a huge amount of national pride in winning this, and everyone's just been, it's been a really great mood. I think, you know, after the Manufacturers' Cup yesterday, it's taken a bit of the pressure off. It's one thing down for some of these drivers. So you've got your eye on anyone in particular? You want to make a call just yet?
Oh, not really. I mean, it's not like it's my job or anything.
You
but
always don't give me anything.
I'm well sad they didn't do a Mexican wave. I was standing behind them when they were filming that Mexican wave, and that they weren't interested.
I have to ask, is your bottom sore from sitting on the fence all afternoon?
Excuse me, Tom, that's a perfect I know, we've got some really strong centre field today, so I mean, we could call someone and be very wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say something a bit later on, sound a bit more informed, sound like I know what I'm talking about. I think I'm going to go with that instead.
Sensible strap.
What are you going to do? Just make it.
Oh, yeah, I'm just going to make it up as I go along, Julia. That's what I've done for years.
I mean, to be honest, that's pretty much par for the course for all three of us. So should be an interesting day. I think we should take a bit of a look at the structure of kind of this year's format, just so you know exactly where we are in the schedule. So yeah, of course, we had in July the online round 1 for the Manufacturers' Cup and the Nations Cup, which of course led on to today, which is the World Series Showdown. So obviously the competitors had points to get them to this stage. Later on this year, in September and October, we'll be having round 2 and 3, and again trying to get as many points as they can, because in November we are back in Monaco, November 25th, 26th, 27th, and that is the World Finals. That is the one that absolutely everyone wants to be at and is dying to go to. And also, of course, we want to hear from you guys about your Michelin driver of the day, so please do join the conversation using the hashtag GT7, hashtag GT World Series. I'm going to stop talking now, because I think it's time. We've got so many semi-finals to get through. I want to see this repechage, because I've been waiting for this to come back as part of the comp format. And then, of course, the grand finals. But really, I'm just going to kick it over to Tom and Jimmy, and they're going to get us started. All right, guys.
Yeah, cheers, Jules. Thanks very much. Welcome over to the GT Des Nations Cup. Tension is in the air. I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm more impressed by our sprint back over. We're getting so good at this now. I'm getting fit, actually.
Yeah, I know. Who'd have thought it? Let's have a look at the championship standings then in the Nations Cup coming into this one. So you can see we had World Series 1 a couple of months ago. Lucas Bonnelli took 3 points from that. Igor Fraga took 2. Takuma Miyazono took 1. Sadly, Takuma not here this weekend following a positive COVID test, meaning he wasn't able to travel. But Lucas Bonnelli, Igor Fraga, the drivers that we're all very keen on watching, seeing if they can extend their points lead.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real shame not to have Takuma here, because then we'd have all 4 of our Nations Cup champs here.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is what it is, and we have to sort of get on with it as is. But yeah, I'm really interested to see if Fraga can come back, really. He's had a bit of a dodgy time in the last couple of years, online and in person as well, when we were doing those events. So I think we're long overdue a Praga victory.
Well, yeah, let's see how it goes there for Fraga. It's all the same, isn't it?
Too many cars.
Let's have a look, shall we, at the competition format then for the Nations Cup. Cup here today. So you can see we have got a lot of drivers. 29 out of the 31 that were supposed to come here are going to be on the grid. They're split up into different regions: EMEA, Americas, Asia-Oceania. As you can see there, we have got all of those drivers ready to go. The top 3 finishers from their regional finals, 3 of which will take place, will go through to the Grand Final. Positions 4 to 7 will go through to the Repechage. What that is, if you don't know, it's a last chance qualifier, but if you finish 7th or lower, you're out. No further positions being taken. Repechage top 3 will go through into the Grand Final, so there will be 12 drivers on the grid here ready to go for this one. And you can see there, of course, they will accumulate points for World Series 2, World Series 3, and of course the World Finals later this year in Monaco as well.
Tell you what, I'm glad we got a graphic for that, because I mean, I definitely remember all those numbers. But first up today is the EMEA region. If you don't know what that is Europe, Middle East and Africa there. A nice map for us. I think you missed Geography Man. And here are the qualifying results from there earlier on today. Jose Serrano on pole position with Valerio Gallo second. Good strong showing from him. And Baptiste Beauvoir rounding up the top 3 in third.
Yeah, you can see they're really, really close inside the top 5. Beauvoir, Mangano, Drummond separated by just thousandths of a second between them. So it's very close there. And of course, you can see a little bit further down as well. The gaps don't necessarily get that much bigger between the competitors. So yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting to see how it all works out for our drivers.
Yeah, so the track our drivers were at earlier on today was the Deep Forest Raceway circuit. We've had the race. We'll go to that in a little bit. And yeah, awesome circuit again. Another fictional circuit from the Gran Turismo series. Actually, one of my personal favourites. I used to love this track back in the day. It was awesome seeing our guys take it on. And available for you guys, of course, to drive in GT7. Here is the circuit. A little bit different from how you might remember it. Some different corners in there.
Yeah, a bit modified for GT7. You can see the car the drivers will be partaking in is the Aston Martin Vulcan. 2 tyre compounds available for them as well. Hards and mediums over a 20-lap race. The start is a rolling start for the drivers, so it just eliminates a little bit of possibility of a bit of contact in towards that first corner. Here is what we're expecting, though, for the tyre strategy, JB.
Yep, I mean, fairly simple, really. Basically, try and get off the hard tyre as quick as you can, as is usually the case. But the thing is, nowadays, we've been told that medium tyre, when we get to that sort of 10-lap period, is actually a little bit slower than the hard compound of tyres. So maybe not quite as clear-cut as it used to be here in the GT Live events, but definitely a new challenge for our drivers to contend with.
Yeah, certainly is going to be. Now, this race took place earlier on this afternoon, as did all of our regional finals. So let's throw it into some highlights, shall we, and talk you through what happened in the regional finals for the EMEA. Well, let's first of all guide you through how the drivers line up on the grid here for this EMEA regional final. Jose Serrano qualified in pole position with the Italian Valerio Gallo alongside him on the front row. Baptiste Beauvoir, who was so quick in World Series 1, can he right the wrongs and get himself up the sharp end? Giorgio Mangano alongside. Kylian Drummond, the second of the French drivers on the grid. Then comes Manu Rodriguez, the Spaniard. Good to see him back in action. Marco Bussanelli, the Italian, great to see him making his debut here in our live events with Coque Lopez, a stalwart in GT alongside him. Quinten Yahal, who's done great things to get himself in the action here with Saruthan Seelan, the Brit, alongside him. Just inside the top 10 there, you can see, and just outside it is Adam Tapai and Patrick Blajan, an all-Hungarian final row of the grid. And this is how the race began. So 20 laps, you can see here, this rolling start was always going to make things interesting as the field got underway. And you can see there the difference in tyres, pretty much all of them starting inside the top 10, aside from Coque Lopez and Quinten Yahal there on the hard compound of tyres. So we were always going to be interested to see how that medium would fare in the early stages.
Yeah, we mostly expected drivers at the front of the grid to fall back into those medium runners, of course, and we'll see how that panned out very shortly. But with this rolling start, it wasn't a particularly long run down towards T1, so it didn't really give a chance for many moves to be made towards there. But of course, anyone who was on that hard compound tyre did find themselves at risk from Coque Lopez and Quinten Yahal, who made the best of it to try and get through the grid as quick as possible.
Absolutely. Well, here is how the race then began. So it was Jose Serrano leading the field across the timing line here at the Deep Forest Raceway. We got action underway for the EMEA regional final here. at the GT World Series Showdown. So Jose Serrano was leading down in towards the first corner with Valerio Gallo looking like he was trying to make a challenge. You can see Giorgio Mangano running it a little bit wide there, and that allowed an opportunity for Kylian Drumont to get himself involved in the action. But of course, that rolling start spreading that field out, not allowing drivers to close up too much in the first couple of corners. Once they got temperature into the tyres and the brakes, it was later on in the lap where we saw the moves being made, especially, Jimmy, down that long back straight.
Yeah, of course, that straight has been modified from the way you might remember it back in the day. A long hairpin at the end of it there. To a fantastic spot to try and overtake. You see Jose Serrano looking quite aggressive off the marker there, trying to get that heat into that hard compound Michelin tyre. So this is where we saw the majority of our moves being made here on this straight. Very long slipstreaming opportunity, a great chance to drop into the toe of the car behind. Never go down into the hairpin if you're feeling brave.
Yeah, this is Jose Serrano then, still leading the way, putting out a 0.6 of a second advantage at this particular point, but keep an eye out in the background as well. Positions beginning to change hands. Here is Coque Lopez. He sent it up the inside of his countryman Manny Rodriguez into that hairpin bend. Look there, though, there was contact. Quinten Hall getting buffed there by, I think it was, Saruthan Seelan as they made their way through. But up front, it was Baptiste Beauvoir versus Giorgio Mangano going side by side, door handle to door handle as they came through the flat-out left-hander and across the timing line. Coque Lopez there keeping a watching brief on proceedings as they headed down to the first corner. Beauvoir up into third place. Mangano there trying to challenge, but look at this. Around the outside went Coque Lopez. An unbelievable move, and we wondered, would he be able to make that stick? Pushed off onto the grass, but somehow managed to find the traction there. Despite Baptiste Beauvoir's best efforts, he was not able to keep the Spaniard behind.
Yeah, we said that, of course, this was the highlights of the race earlier on. It's also good we've included the full first 2 laps of you because it was action pretty much all the way through. With Drumont, of course, bear in mind yesterday he had a fantastic day with Team Subaru in the Manufacturers' Cup, taking the first win of the season there at one of our live events, our first live event back, of course, in 2 years, and on a bit of a high from there. But up against Baptiste Beauvoir, who you could argue is sort of the old French guard versus the new the French competitor here.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at Giorgio Mangano then here. He decided to get his elbows out as they went side by side. A little bit later on in the race, this was Coque Lopez versus Jose Serrano. So Lopez managed to get himself up into third place, then elevated into second, went for the race lead down the inside here of Jose Serrano. Ran it a bit deep though into the corner. Serrano managed to retaliate, get the switch back on the inside. Lopez, good traction despite running too deep on the curb there, and Serrano just decided to get back into that slipstream to try and retaliate a little bit later on.
Yeah, and this was where we were seeing the divergence in strategy start to come across from Coque Lopez and, well, basically the rest of the field. Quinten Hall unfortunately got caught up in an accident earlier on, so wasn't able to really make the best of that medium compound tyre. But Coque Lopez showing the grip and the speed that was in that Michelin medium tyre, so could quite easily go around the outside of cars just to have that grip, have that confidence there where others lacked it. But of course, he would have to go onto the hard tyre later on.
Yeah, here we are with Baptiste Beauvoir. A lap later, Kylian Drumont keeping an eye on him and trying to go round the outside into the first corner. So the 2 French drivers going toe-to-toe with one another. Beauvoir managing to hold the inside line. The thing is, whilst they were squabbling, it allowed Mangano and Hall to close up, respectively, there, as they just sort of basically fought their own battle, those 2 Frenchmen. But the problem with that is it backs you up to the nearest competitor.
No problem for them, not for us. It means more action for us, so I'm happy with that. But yeah, you see Baptiste Beauvoir getting a bit of a sweat on. Like I said, I think he was starting to feel the pressure from Drumont behind, and I think there's a little bit of national pride there. I think you want to be best of the French, and that has been Baptiste Beauvoir for a very long time, and Kylian Drumont, of course, very keen to take that title away from him.
Yeah, absolutely. On board we ride here then with Kylian Drumont. We're on lap 8 out of 20 then in the highlights of this EMEA region race. You can see there not quite so much of a sweat on, a little bit of opposite lock as he was just spinning up the rear tyres. And of course we mentioned about tyres and about strategy. The hard tyres, though of course they are a bit longer lasting, they have a little bit less grip. And the good thing is about them here in GT7 is they've remodeled the tyres basically, so the hard compound tyres, they're a lot more usable effectively for a longer period of time. They don't quite fall off the cliff as we have seen in previous iterations. Here is Jose Serrano. You can see once he was able to get himself ahead, and once pit stops started to play out, he was able to pull out a good advantage and not be too worried about what was happening behind. He went into the pits on lap 10, made his changeover from the hards to the medium compound of tyres. And we were keen to see what it was going to mean for the Spaniard. Would he be able to retain his lead, or would other drivers who had pitted before him be able to get the undercut? Well, you can see as he emerged from the pit lane here, Valerio Gallo was able to get himself ahead, as well as Coque Lopez. But crucially here, Jimmy, Lopez was on the hard tyre and was a bit of a sitting duck.
Yeah, this is where we saw the strategy Lopez opted for, the bad side. You know, he's now having to deal with that hard compound tyre, which is slow, and he did have track position, but look behind him right now. All these guys behind him on the faster compound tyre, quicker on circuit as well. And Valerio Gallo, who opted to pit a couple of laps earlier, actually managed to jump Serrano and was now in the prime opportunity to take the lead of the race. But again, when you pit, it's crazy just how those small margins can come back to bite you. And you'll see what I mean a bit later on.
Yeah, half a tenth, tenth and a half, whatever it may be, it can prove to be very costly in terms of your strategy. And you can see Lopez here just coming under all sorts of pressure, a bit of a train forming behind him as Valerio Gallo closed right up onto the back. Of course, Valerio on the quicker compound of tyre. Coque Lopez on the slower compound was doing a really good job of soaking up the pressure, but it was a case of when and not if the drivers behind would strike. Valerio Gallo was in the slipstream, aggressively pulled to the inside, down towards the first corner. The Italian trying to make his way through as they went side by side, and Gallo, the Italian driver, into the race lead on lap 13. And the thing is, with Lopez, it was one way from there, and unfortunately that way was south.
Yeah, and of course, bear in mind, in this Europe EMEA final, it was all down to the top three. Top three would go through to the grand final and qualify for that. And of course, Coque Lopez hanging on for dear life there in second place, but just didn't quite have a response. It's not down to Coque not having the skill there, but just having the tyre disadvantage. We see that right through here, Serrano able to pressure his countryman, fellow countryman, and just stay on the back of him. And we go onto the back straight now. At this point, it's pretty much a done deal. It's just drive by him in a straight line. I think Coque Lopez kind of knew that too. He sort of he understood that he wasn't able to hold this place. He went to defend and then just sort of let him go.
Yeah, the thing is as well, Jose Serrano, of course, was in a much better position at this point in the race. They're both Spanish drivers, and I can imagine if one of the Spaniards was going to do well, Lopez wasn't going to try and hold him up too much as they went into the hairpin. You can see there, just being careful, but crucially, you've got to be careful not to let the other drivers through, and that allowed Baptiste Beauvoir to close right up as he ran it a bit deep into that corner with Serrano going up his inside. Was just able to keep ahead of him for the time being, but coming on to this start-finish straight, keep an eye out for Baptiste Beauvoir and also, crucially, Kylian Drumont, the two Frenchmen in the background. They, of course, have got the quicker tyre. They've got more grip under braking, and Baptiste Beauvoir knew that, sent it down the inside, not of one, but of two. Straight through into second place he went, but it was a little bit too late. Drumont got involved in the action there as well. Somehow Beauvoir managed to hold on to third place. It was just brilliant in the latter stages of this one.
Yeah, we call that ascent where I'm from. He came from a long way back and just about managed not to hit anyone. And as you say, Serrano did a very good job of sort of opening the door there to avoid the contact. So good to see everyone get through that in one piece. And that then meant, of course, that it was Gallo, Serrano and Beauvoir going through. But as we got towards the end of the race, Gallo started to lose a bit of pace. He pitted a little bit earlier and Serrano did onto those medium compound tyres. And as a result, the tyres were wearing more. And he had to try and deal with that as Serrano, on a fresher set of tyres, pretty much could just harry him everywhere. The pressure was on, and every time he put a little bit of pressure on, Gallo would slip the car a little, would slide the car a bit, and just compounded that tyre wear issue, which allowed Serrano to get closer and closer as the laps dwindled down.
As you saw on the top of your screen there, Giorgio Mangano picked up a penalty. He was running in P5 at that point. Just a reminder, of course, P4 to P7 go through to the repechage. If you finish outside of 7th place down to 12th, you're out of the competition. You can see Bonnelli also picking up a penalty as well, the Italian driver on his debut for live racing here in the GT World Series Showdown, unfortunately having a bit of a shocker in this EMEA regional final, and very much like we saw with Coque Lopez a few laps ago with Jose Serrano on the back of him, it was a case of when and not if Serrano would strike on the back of the 2021 Nations Cup champion. You can see him in the slipstream, Gallo trying to defend as they came down into the hairpin, doing a really good job of parking that car on the apex, but he tried to get the switchback through there, got a nice tight exit onto it and was trying to find his way through as he pulled alongside rear quarter to front wing as they came into the start-finish straight, and you can see the drive and the traction, the grip, the power that Jose Serrano had as they pulled alongside the Italian, and they went toe-to-toe in towards the first corner. Jose Serrano managing to get ahead. Gallo, though, saying, I'm not taking that line down. Sent it back up the inside, ran it, though, a little bit too deep into that corner. Jose Serrano managed to get the switch back very nicely indeed, and finally through into the lead.
And again, doing that aggression is what was causing the tyres to wear more. As you can see by then, as we got to the last lap of the race, it was Jose Serrano who led over line. Baptiste Beauvoir second, Kylian Killian Drummond just about managing to snatch third place away from Valerio Gallo. They got automatic qualification through to the grand final. Gallo, though, having to settle for the repechage spot.
Yeah, Jose Serrano taking a brilliant victory from Baptiste Beauvoir, Killian Drummond. As Jimmy said, those three drivers making their way through automatically into the grand final. Unfortunately, we said goodbye to Rodriguez, Seeland, Tapai, Yahal and Bonnelli, and you can see there as well as the drivers celebrated with one another exactly what it meant. Here are the final results then. Serrano takes top honours from Beauvoir and Drummond. Gallo, Blajan, Lopez, Mangano go through into the repechage race, the last chance qualifier, if you will. And as I said, Rodriguez, Silan, Tapai, Yahal and Bonnelli sadly will progress no further in the EMEA region here today. And indeed, they will not go into, at least into the repechage or indeed the grand final for the Nations Cup.
So yes, and we actually have an interview now with Jose Serrano, with Julia, to find out his thoughts on that first race.
Yes, and we are also joined by Lucas as well, who's very graciously, you know, using that last little bit of your voice that's left, agreed to translate. It's been a long weekend. Jose, how do you feel after that? That was a pretty tough. That seemed like it was a very tough fight on the track there.
Bueno, que ha sido una lucha tremenda, ¿no? ¿Cómo te sientes con esta carrera que ha sido una batalla tremenda?
Bueno, pues me siento la verdad que muy contento de estar primero aquí en este evento y la verdad que empezar así en un evento presencial ganando nuestra final regional, la verdad que es impresionante.
Well, incredible feeling. First time in a World Tour and finishing in a high like this, winning my first race. It's really amazing and enjoying the atmosphere for sure.
Yeah. How was it to watch it back just now? Do you still feel happy with every decision you made in the race?
Bueno, viendo el resumen, ¿no?, de la carrera, algo que comentar, algo que hubieses cambiado en estrategias.
Quizá para una vuelta antes por el undercut que me hizo Valerio, pero al final me salió bien porque al estar detrás de él, pues intenté ahorrar goma y al final la verdad que me salió muy bien.
Well, I would have pitted a lap earlier as to obviously avoid the undercut from Valerio, but yeah, then it worked well in the end, so yeah, happy with that.
Yes, it did. So now, you know, you just got to wait just for your grand final race. So what are your thoughts kind of going into the grand final? Like, who from your region are you most worried about?
Bueno, ahora viene la gran final, ¿no? En un rato. ¿Quién crees que va a ser tu rival de tu región, ¿no?, en la gran final?
Yo creo que va a ser Killian, que también es su primer evento presencial, pero también va muy rápido. Y creo que Baptiste y Valerio son los más fuertes.
Well, I guess Killian, which is his first.
It's been really.
First,
I mean,
yeah,
come on now. Yeah, all right. We see you. Yeah.
Killian's first World Tour as well, but he's really strong. And then also Valerio and Baptiste, they look really strong as well for the final.
Well, you did so well. Big congratulations and good luck in the final.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you.
Well, you just saw the Ford GT race car. That is the chariot, shall we say, that the America's final drivers are going to be competing in. Looking forward to this one because, of course, it's the whole of America. It's not just North America. You've got South America in there as well. So you've got Chilean drivers, you've got Brazilian drivers, etc. And this is going to be really exciting. Some supreme talent at the Daytona road course. This is what happened in qualifying for our drivers. Unsurprisingly, the 2018 Nations Cup champion, Igor Fraga, on pole position, but by less than a tenth from Angel Enestrosa.
Yeah, really quite close, actually. And of course, bear in mind that Igor Fraga, whilst a decent qualifier, has struggled in the races a little bit recently. Had a decent race yesterday in the Manufacturers Cup, but not so much before that. So definitely not going to be just cut and try for Igor Fraga.
No, absolutely not. I'm really looking forward to seeing what those drivers are going to be able to do. And of course, that Daytona road course, it's a different beast to what we saw with Deep Forest a couple of minutes ago, isn't it?
Yeah, very American. If you're American watching right now, you're probably beaming with pride. This is the Daytona road course, half oval, half infield circuit. And of course, because we have that massive oval on there as well, it's basically a paradise for people who like slipstreaming. I've never met those people in person before, but yeah, a great place to get in the tow and just be patient with it. As you can see, we are using the Ford GT race car. I saw that a bit earlier on. Racing medium and soft tyres being used. As always, both tyres have to be used at least once, and 16 laps as well. Plenty of time for our drives stuck into one another.
Here are the tyre compound strategies we're expecting. So if you start on the soft, we reckon you do about 7 laps there and thereabouts, and then do the next 9 on the mediums, and pretty much the reverse of that, but for the mediums to the softs. It'll be interesting to see what sort of strategies the drivers would go for in that race effectively, because if you're further up the grid, I imagine you probably want to make a break for it on the soft tyres. Yeah,
I mean, the thing is around here, it's really difficult to make that break. As I said, it's mostly an oval. So if you are anywhere near the car behind you, then you're going to be under attack and under threat from the tow. So in an ideal world, you're going to get an amazing start, break the tow straight away and drive away. But that happens very, very rarely.
Well, like with all of our regional finals, they took place earlier on here this afternoon at the Hangar 7 in Salzburg. Let's bring you some highlights then, shall we, of the Americas regional final. So this is how the grid would line up. Not only, of course, is it the Daytona road course, it is under night conditions as well. Fraga was on pole position, Angel Inestrosa joining him on the front row of the grid. Row 2, Adriano Carrazza, driver who's not afraid to get his elbows out, but Lucas Bonnelli, likewise his compatriot alongside him, is pretty much the same. Fabian Portilla, good qualifying for the Chilean driver. He has got Juan Hernandez, the Guatemalan, who's burst onto the scene over the last year or so. Ethan Lim, the Canadian, lines up P7 with Dean Helt in P8. On the grid, the American driver, Robbie Heck as well. We've seen a lot of him online over the last couple of years or so, completing the 9-driver strong grid. And, well, a rolling start here for these drivers was always going to make things interesting. But, of course, tyre strategy here as we bring you highlights of this race. You can see there as well, Igor Fraga, Angel Inestrosa and Adriano Carrazza on the softs.
So basically their idea was to try and break the tow as soon as possible and get as much space as possible between them and the rest of the field. Just like in the last race, it was top 3 that would go through to the final, with 4th to 7th going through the Repechage, and of course 8th and 9th going no further in the competition.
So this was the start then of the races. We bring you highlights from the Americas regional final here for the Nations Cup for the 2022 GT World Series Showdown. Igor Fraga leading the field very slowly towards the timing line. Angel Inestrosa there ready to try and pounce. Of course, the first corner here at Daytona as well. It's a bit of a tricky one. It's a left-hander, goes a little bit off camber, pretty fast into a very slow corner as Igor Fraga led the field, and we got the Americas regional final underway here at the Daytona road course. So it was Fraga, Inestrosa, Carrazza and Lucas Bonnelli, and you can see they flick it very aggressively left in towards that first corner as the drivers set about finding their way and finding their feet and getting their heat into their tyres. I imagine, though, for Dean Helt and Robbie Heck, they, of course, were on the soft compound of the tyre. They qualified right at the back. They were just trying to make up ground whilst the field was bunched up.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably the best thing they could do at that point. And interestingly, Inestrosa and Carrazza were really actually having quite a close fight on the first half of a lap. And look at those gaps. Look at the gap between Fraga and Inestrosa. Because of these guys having their little scrap together, it actually meant that Igor Fraga had a bit of a plain sail. There goes Carrazza up the inside and just slowed them both up coming through the horseshoe. And that broke the tow right there. Just like that, Igor Fraga was out the tow and able to try and make his way away from the rest of the pack while the guys behind him squabbled.
And that's the thing that Fraga has always liked to do, is lead from the front. He doesn't like getting involved in those squabbles, and we saw that in World Series 1. Again, qualified mid-pack, well, I say mid-pack, inside the top 10 at least, but not where we're sort of used to seeing him qualify. And after that, his race kind of went southwards from that point onwards, really, and it just sort of never really materialised. In this set of circumstances for the Americas regional final, you can see he was able to pull out a sizable advantage here on the opening lap, with Angel Inestrosa setting about squabbling with Adriano Carrazza. You can see he closed right up on the bus stop, but you can't go 2 by 2 into there.
No, I mean, I wouldn't try it. I haven't tried it. It didn't go very well.
Rostrum or hospital?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely the latter at that point. You can see Inestrosa at this point trying some interesting tactics. You know, if you guys are into your stock car racing, which is, it sounds like a very British way of saying it, doesn't it? A bit of bump drafting going on there between Carrazza and Inestrosa in an aid to try and catch Fraga in front. And it looked like they might have done it. The gap came down to under 1 second, but then we go into T1 once again, and Fraga just seeming to have a bit more confident in the car underneath him, able to pull up the gap through the corners.
Yeah, the thing is with Carrazza and Inestrosa, it basically became a story of the unstoppable force and the immovable object between them. They were stuck like on each other like pigeon guano to a car bonnet at this point, and that was a theme that basically continued throughout the entirety of the race, because Karatsa, despite everything, was not able to build a gap to Inestrosa, but likewise was not able to close the gap to Fraga in front. You can see them running nose to tail here, the brake discs glowing in the darkness here. Jimmy, you've done a fair bit of endurance racing. You know it pretty much back to front, upside down. Upside down, I put a lot of emphasis on that as well.
Yeah.
Like you said. What's the difference between driving at daytime and driving at night time?
You can see less, Tom.
Thank you. You're right there, Jimmy. Goodness me. Anyway, Captain Obvious is going to laugh his way through. As we can see, Robbie Heck here was close onto the back over Fabian Portilla. Of course, he was trying to go for the higher line, the outside line on the oval section, but of course you're extending the length of the track at that point. So despite having the momentum, he wasn't quite able to mount a challenge at that point. We thought, is he going to go for it down the inside into the bus stop? Well, unfortunately, he was not quite close enough. Unfortunately as well for Ethan Lim, down in 8th place after a bit of a shaky start to the race, then compounded after picking up a penalty for colliding with another car on the opening lap.
Yeah, of course, this pack was sort of bunched together with Robbie Heck on that soft compound tyre, and he was trying his best to find a way past Fabian Portilla, but as you see, the toe round here, whilst it was enough to pull you along, it was pretty difficult to pull out onto the high side of the oval. When you go, of course, go high on the oval, you are taking a longer route around the circuit, so you might carry some more speed, but you see, looking around the outside of both Portilla and Bonnelli there, and almost having a moment, actually slid onto the grass, but masterfully recovered by Robbie Heck there. I've got to say, when I first saw that, I was convinced it was going to be a massive shunt, but he managed to come out of it okay.
Crucially, Dean Helt made his way up into 7th place as Robbie Heck sent about going up the inside of Fabian Portilla into the horseshoe then. Side by side, he ran with the Chilean driver, demoting him eventually down into 6th place. So still into the repechage there for Fabian, but of course it's all important for where they will start on the grid for that repechage. And Robbie Heck fancied going 2 into 1. There was a bit of argy-bargy between himself and Lucas Bonnelli. Sensibly there, Heck deciding just getting out of the throttle, not muscling his way through and deciding to get the wrath of the stewards on his back.
Yeah, very enthusiastic move. I like those. Give us more of those. But Heck, regardless, still making his way slowly through the field. But the problem he'd have, as we described on this oval course here, is once he got by Bonnelli, he had nowhere really to go, because Inestrosa in front of the 2-second gap outside the drafting range, and him and Karatsa were outside the drafting range of Fraga. So he sort of had these little mini packs develop as the race went on.
Yeah, this was Heck going side by side with Bonnelli. Bonnelli, of course, on the medium tyres, Heck on the soft, so a bit quicker, and he tried for a move around the outside. I didn't think that this was one that was going to pay off, but amazingly, the American driver was able to get it stopped. Instead, you can't go 2 by 2 through there. Obviously, Robbie Heck didn't read the script on that one and was able to make his way up into 4th place. Later on, he would pick up a penalty, as we see the first of the pit stops now taking place. So Fraga came in, and it was a case of follow the leader, pretty much.
Yeah, you had no choice really but to do that, because any chance of the toe would fall away if you didn't choose to come into the pit at that point in time. So everyone into the pit lane, changing onto that medium compound tyre. So that would seem to be a little bit slower in the second half of the race, which of course is what the first stint was all about, trying to make that gap as big as possible to negate any time lost on that Michelin medium tyre. Karatsa taking a bit of a break. He looked actually fairly chilled out for that. Karatsa is someone who is, I think aggressive is understatement in his driving style, but actually seems fairly chilled.
Yeah, absolutely. If you compare that to the likes of Lucas Bonnelli, who sits there with his shoulders hunched and almost feels like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders when he's driving, it's certainly a very different style of racing. These are highlights just to remind you of the Americas regional final. We're right on boarding here with Angel Inestrosa, who of course is now on the medium compound of tyre. You can see the tyre wear there. Lucas Bonnelli changed over a little bit earlier than those around him, of course, and his tyre wear was a little bit warm, but Inestrosa was closing right up to the back of Adriano Karatsa here.
And that little bump there, keep that in mind, because the stewards, we had said before that bump drafting is something that the stewards tend to frown upon. We saw a little bit of it, and I think at that point, Inestrosa had maybe tried his luck one too many times. And actually ended up getting a little bit of a warning from the stewards saying, mate, no more bump drafting, which, for their pursuit of Igor Fraga, was actually a fairly substantial blow.
So Lucas Bonnelli now is, of course, leading the race, but as you can see on the graphic on the left-hand side of the screen, he hasn't made his mandatory pit stop at this point. He did come in at the end of lap 9, so we're over the halfway stage now of this race. It's the soft tyre that Bonnelli had to go onto, where, of course, the drivers around him are pretty much on the medium compound of tyres, so he would be quicker in the latter stages of the race, but the thing is, he was kind of in no man's land at this point. All the other medium shod runners coming in as well at the end of lap 9 to go onto the soft compound tyre. The Brazilian driver there just taking a little bit of a breather. And we waited to see what it would mean for him as he emerged out of the pit lane. Of course, the exit here of the pit lane at the Daytona Road Course emerges out of the exit of turn number 2, and you can see there going on by, it was Robbie Heck into 4th place. So despite trying a different strategy for Lucas Bonnelli, didn't prove to pay off for him. He ended up again in no man's land as, once again, the story of Corazza and Inestrosa, you couldn't separate them.
They're actually best mates now.
They're on each other's Christmas cards list.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
You know, they're all sitting next to each other at lunch. It's very cute. Yeah, Inestrosa was kind of demonstrating what we thought might be the style of racing here, which is, you know, I'm not actually quick enough to get by you in the midfield section, and I can do it in the toe, but is there any point? Because at this point, of course, in the race, they are all going through. Inestrosa there, although he gave it a go. He went around the outside here into T1. The inside of T1 to left-hander is cambered, so being as close to the inside as possible is definitely the way you want to go through. And you can see here, Corazza able just to sort of let off the brake, roll through. And there's not really much Inestrosa can do about it apart from wait and let Corazza take that place back. And we saw that a few times over the course of his race.
Yeah, we certainly would do. So we're getting towards the business end of the highlights of this America's regional final here now. You can see Fraga in a different postcode compared to everybody else. 3.5 seconds up the road from the battling duo of Corazza versus Inestrosa. Robbie Heck came under a bit of pressure from the soft tyre shod Lucas Bonnelli here for 4th place. This, of course, determines not only where they will start on the grid for the repechage, but also, I think a bit of pride involved here as well between these two drivers. And you can see Bonnelli trying to mount a challenge on Robbie Heck. Of course, he's got much more grip under braking with that soft shod tyre, and he goes up the inside into the bus stop. Bonnelli finding his way through despite there picking up a warning.
Oh, it's only a warning, says Bonnelli. You see there, masterfully stopped on the apex, did not give Heck a good run out the corner. I say masterfully because it was either that or he had a massive moment. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that it was on purpose. So you can pay me later, Lucas.
So here we are then, Robbie Heck trying to retaliate, albeit in vain, to be honest with you, at this point. You can see he pulled to the outside of the Brazilian driver. They went 2 by 2 across the timing line, but of course, as we know, going into that first corner, when it's off camber, you're kind of putting yourself out in no man's land, really. Bonnelli having the inside line, the optimum track position, later on the brakes, soft compound of tyres as well, and despite running a little bit wide in the second pass of that first turn, he was able to hold on to that 4th place.
We go into the final lap now, and this was the end of this battle between Corazza and Inestrosa, the race-long battle. And this was actually really good driving by Corazza. You see, he just slowed up a little bit through there, just to put Inestrosa off, and then gunned it out of a last chicane, and gave himself enough of a run to be able to protect himself from Inestrosa and hang on to that 2nd place.
There was no stopping Igor Fraga, though. A phenomenal performance from the Brazilian driver. Fraga absolutely dominating proceedings here at Daytona for the Americas Regional Final. 4.6 seconds ahead of the next competitor, taking the win in an amazing fashion from his compatriot Adriano Corazza. Angel Inestrosa also automatically qualifying for the grand final. Lucas Bonnelli would be the first of the drivers to face the repechage. Let's have a look then, shall we, at the final results from that one. So Fraga, Corazza, Inestrosa make it through. Bonnelli, Helt, Lim, Heck going through into the repechage, so that means the last chance qualifier. Sadly, we say goodbye to Juan Hernandez and Fabian Portilla. They go no further in the World Series Showdown here for the Nations Cup, unfortunately. Anyway, let's head down then to Julia, who is with the winner from that race, Igor Fraga.
Yes, I'm joined by Igor Fraga now. Well, this feels fun. Here you are back. Look at that, leading from the front. That was like 4.6 something seconds. That was a nice little hefty chunk of a lead you had there. How's that feel?
Yeah, definitely feels good. My pace during the race was pretty good, but I also got a little lucky that at the beginning, Corazza and also Angel fought a little bit, and I could pull out the gap because the slipstream in this track is quite strong. So yeah, I got a little bit lucky. But yeah, I'm very happy to be able to win my regional final.
And you're talking a little bit about the car. How was that to drive? It was quite tricky. You were saying there were points on the track that everyone's kind of a little bit afraid of. Tell us about that.
So the bus stop with this car was super tricky. The car is kind of oversteery. It's an EMEA car, so it's naturally a little bit more difficult to drive it. And on that chicane there is a little bump on the entry, and if you hit that, it's just like almost almost done. So I was just very relieved to be able to go through it without any problem, and yeah, here we are at the final.
So as a Gran Turismo champion, former champion, what is it like? We've got a lot of fresh meat into the mix. What are the drivers like? What's the quality of driving like?
Yeah, definitely. I think the quality of driving has been rising because, at the beginning we were the standard and they're trying to beat the standard. So,
yeah.
They're definitely pushing the barriers. Josete also did very well on his group. So, yeah, he's been really strong and, very looking forward for the last race.
I think we all are. We're all very much looking forward to seeing how you're going to do. But, yeah, thank you for talking to us. Good luck going forward into that grand final.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Well, there we are then. That is the car that we'll be competing in for the Asia-Oceania regional final. I tell you what, this is the thing about Nations Cup, is that you don't just have to compete in one class of car. You've got to be really adaptable. Super Formulas, I don't want to tame them.
No, I'm awful in this car. I'm not even going to pretend to have any sort of ego at all. I'm so bad in this car. So I'm interested to see how our guys from the Asia-Oceania region get on today. Again, some amazing talent in there. And here are how the qualifiers panned out earlier on. Ryota Kokubun took pole position from Kawakami, only below a 10th there between first and second place. And Matt McEwen there, repping the Kiwis in third. A really nice result for him.
Yeah, the other Kiwi side, Bishop, didn't have a particularly brilliant qualifying. Likewise, the Aussie Guy Barbara there as well. But you can see the field separated by, well, pretty much 0.6 of a second from first down to 8th. So only one of the drivers would not go forward into the repechage, and I tell you what, you don't want to be that one, do you? So anyway, that's how it would all work out. This was the Fuji International Speedway circuit that the drivers were competing on here for this Asia-Oceania regional final. That's where the qualifying results took place, and this is a track that I absolutely adore. It has got character from every pore of its tarmac, and you've got Mount Fuji in the background as well.
I'm going to be really unpopular, so I actually dislike driving this circuit because that middle section is so difficult, so twisty, especially in a car like this Super Formula car. Very, very tricky to get on the throttle here, of course. Now, just like our other races, racing medium and soft tyre being used, both, of course, having to be used at some point during the race. 20-lap race around here, and tyre wear was actually quite a big issue in this one.
It was, yeah. The soft compound of tyres were basically, we were talking to the competitors, they said they were going to start to go off after 6 laps, but you've got to make them last for 8 laps, 9 laps, as you can see, and that's what the strategy would mean. So when they fall off a cliff, those soft tyres, they really do make a big, big difference in terms of the pace that the drivers are able to run. So we weren't sure what was going to happen going into this.
Yeah, I mean, I've been told by other competitors that some of the drivers are out there properly sending it. And when you do that, of course, the tyres sort of just turn into jelly after a while. So, yeah, those who are able to keep their tyres alive were going to do best in this race.
Well, let's have a look then, shall we, at the highlights from the Asia-Oceania regional final, which took place earlier on here today at the Red Bull Hangar 7 in Salzburg. So this is how the grid lined up. Ryota Kokubun starting on pole position, Kanata Kawakami alongside him on that front row of the grid. Matt McEwen repping the Kiwis in third place. Great qualifying from him with Tomoaki Yamanaka, affectionately known as the Samurai, alongside. Then it was Suzuki. And alongside him was Jonathan Wong. We know that Jonathan's been here for a long time and qualifying in 6th place on the grid with Guy Barbara and Cy Bishop for company right behind. Now a rolling start here for the drivers. Crucially, the top 5 starting on the soft compound of tyre. Would they be able to make them last though?
Yeah, of course, rolling start round is still a long run down towards T1, which is a hairpin here. And in these high downforce cars, the slipstream is massive. So Ryota Kokubun really starting from the front, probably the most vulnerable place for him to start. But he's been driving for a long time in Gran Turismo. Definitely not a rookie. He knows his way around a race car and knows how to lead from the front. So he was going to be tough to beat here in this Asia-Oceania regional final.
So let's bring you then highlights of this race. You can see the field weaving as they head down the long 1 kilometre straight straight here at the Fuji International Speedway. This is really the prime overtaking spot down in towards the first corner. And with a rolling start, despite the field being spread out, you can guarantee big sends in towards the first turn. So this is how it pans out then in the Asia-Oceania regional final as Ryota Kokubun and Kanata Kawakami lead from the front as we get ready to get this race underway then here at the Fuji International Speedway. So Kokubun, of course, led the way, but all the drivers darting into the slipstream. They do have a push-to-pass system on these Super Formula cars, 90 seconds of extra power. Matt McEwen wasn't hanging around. He went for a big send on the outside into the first turn, wasn't quite able to pay off. Keep an eye out, though, in the background. It all did kick off between Jonathan Wong, Guy Barbara and Cy Bishop as they went in towards turn 3. Tomoaki Yamanaka tried to pick the pocket of Matt McEwen for third place, but wasn't quite able to make that move stick.
Yeah, awesome onboards, of course, from Yamanaka, who had a very eventful race. But you can see there on the left-hand side, tumbling down the order, was Jonathan Wong and Cy Bishop, attributing to a couple of incidents they had there on the first lap. And, of course, at this point in the race, Yamanaka wasn't aware of that. He was more focusing on Matt McEwen in front to try and get into third place for that last qualifying spot.
It's the sensational speed I absolutely love from these Super Formula cars. The drivers giving absolutely no quarter, and I'll tell you what, they do not have a good soundtrack as well. This is the final section. You can see there the incident between Bishop, Barbara and Wong was under investigation at this point. Bishop actually picking up a little bit of a penalty as well. I believe that was for hopping the curb and exceeding the track limits. That's an automatically awarded penalty within GT7, and that's what he was awarded on that opening lap. But the incident did not go any further than it being deemed a racing incident at the end of this first lap. So it was Kokubun then who led the way, 1.5 seconds from Kawakami.
Yeah, and at that point, of course, we were still all wondering what happened to Guy Barbara, Cy Bishop and Jonathan Wong. And we will get to that very shortly. But Matt McEwen there putting in a fantastic effort there for the Kiwis. We've not really seen them do so well. So here was that incident we've referenced there. We go into the kink here. Cy Bishop just goes onto the inside, picks up that penalty. I think, you know, I'll still go for this move on Wong. And Guy Barbara gets forced out onto the outside there. Contact between the two. And then here he comes across the grass and no, bang. There it is.
Straight to the scene of the accident there for Guy Barbara and the stewards, not deeming anybody to be at fault. First laps, of course, are judged a little bit differently here because the field's a bit concertinaed up, but either way, unfortunately, it was not good for them, and Cy Bishop was then on the back foot, as you can see, 4 tenths of a second away at this point from Jonathan Wong. So these are highlights of this race, just to remind you, in these Super Formula cars, and Matt McEwen there sitting in third place with Tomoaki Yamanaka relatively close behind. Of course, they're all on the soft competitive tyres inside the top 5, so pace difference wasn't too much, but they do have that push-to-pass system, 90 seconds of extra power over the course of this race, and the one time you want to be able to use it is when you've got the advantage of the slipstream in front, and especially down this long straight.
Yeah, you can use the defend as well. If you feel maybe a little bit vulnerable down the straight, yeah, you can see there, just you can hear the change in the engine note when the push-to-pass is used there. So McEwen using a tiny bit of it to defend from Yamanaka. And the thing with these cars, because they're high downforce, because they have massive slicks and massive brakes, you can really send one from a long way back. So you have to keep a big eye on your mirrors, and McEwen did that very well as time went on.
So into that left-hander went Matt McEwen as he held on to that third place. Meanwhile, at the front, Kokubun extending his advantage, 1.4 seconds, doing a bit of an Igor Fraga like we saw in the Americas region a few moments ago for highlights of that one. And as you can see there, Matt McEwen just looking relatively calm and not soaking up the pressure, I should say, of Tomoaki Yamanaka. Kind of the field spreading out, and you can see there the stewards eventually deciding that no further action between Cy Bishop, Guy Barbara and Jonathan Wong for that first lap incident. I
think they all decided, well, you're all being silly, so you all suffer from it, so you know it sorted itself out in that way. And you can see for his middle sector, of course, the soft runners putting away from the medium runners behind, not of course not wholly in part because of that incident earlier on in the race as well. But these soft tyres, even at this stage, on lap 3, lap 4, starting to fall away from the drivers. We started to see the lap times coming down, going up, I should say, steadily, as the tyres wore more and more as the race went on.
Talk to the competitors, and they were saying basically if the tyres go beyond 70% wear, that's when they fall off a cliff, and they do it big time. Here was Suzuki up the inside of Yamanaka, the two Japanese drivers going side by side with one another, Suzuki managing to get ahead. And the question we were asking at this point was Suzuki able to get onto the back of Matt McEwen? Well, no, he wasn't, because Yamanaka said I'm going to go back up the inside of you at turn 3. Unfortunately for him, he picked up a half-second penalty there as well for curb hopping, extending the track limits a little bit too much. Dab of Oppo into there, very lucky to not come to blows with Suzuki. Those two really close to one another. Unfortunately, it would all be in vain, of course, because Yamanaka, with that half-second penalty that he would serve on the start-finish straight, would then drop back from Suzuki.
So we were a lap 4 at this point, and countryman had a healthy lead, 2 seconds over Kanata Kawakami in second place, and McEwen behind them. Yamanaka, though, despite his penalty, would come back as Suzuki into T1, and then we had, I think, what was probably the overtaking move in the race. You can hear that Yamanaka is on that push to pass button coming into the kick, which is a left-hander, and full confidence, full commitment, sent it all the way around the outside of Suzuki into the inside of 100R, showing the confidence that Yamanaka had in that Super Formula car.
Phenomenal drive there from Yamanaka. Great confidence, great respect as well from Suzuki in that race, just to be aware that Yamanaka was there and give him racing room. Just a reminder, these are highlights of this race. Of course, the top 3 drivers will progress forwards into the grand final, and as you can see, the gap's relatively stable between those top 3 of Kokubun, Kawakami and Matt McEwen. Yamanaka, Suzuki, Barbara and Wong will be the drivers who went into the last chance repechage race. Cy Bishop, unfortunately, that first lap incident was followed by a myriad of other incidents in the race, and he would eventually drop off the back, and we waited for the first pit stops to come, and they did at the end of lap number 10. So this is Kokubun coming into the pit lane. Kawakami very closely following him as well as they emerge out of it and into the first corner. Went Kokubun now on the medium compound of tyre. The thing is, again, very much like we saw in the Americas region highlights a few moments ago, everybody else followed the leader.
This is basically where we saw the story of the race unfold, which was McEwen versus Yamanaka. Yamanaka had a bit more pace than the Kiwi in front, but as so is often the way with Tomoaki Yamanaka, just pushed the limits a few too many times. A couple of little mistakes, a couple of little issues made his hard charge sort of dampen off a little bit as he got closer to the back of the car in front.
Yeah, of course, dirty air is something to consider in these Super Formula cars. Once you get onto the back of these machines in front, you've got, of course, aero wash, so basically the front starts to understeer. You've not got as much grip as you would have once had when you're running in clean air, and that started to affect Yamanaka, along with those sort of little mistakes that began creeping in, like running over these curves. When you're on those sausage curves, it makes me grimace every time, because the drivers, it's so easy to rotate the car, light the rear tyres up, and then you not only cost yourself time, but also tyre life as well.
And you find yourself fully committed to the corner, touch of the curve, you just hear a boing, and off you go, off into the undergrowth. Because, of course, these cars are pushed to the ground by the aero that the wings produce, the rear wing and the front wing, and you can see one of the big moments for Yamanaka there through the kink. Well, that's what I was talking about, pushing a bit too hard. He had the confidence, but the problem is, I think actually he had more confidence than the car could deliver to him, which is actually a very rare situation to be in.
Well, it's a very fortunate save there from him, because these cars are very twitchy on the limit. Of course, this was for the final automatic qualifying spot in the grand final for the Nations Cup, and Yamanaka, despite his best efforts, the steely determination you can see on his face, he was not able to close that gap down to Matt McEwen, and you can see there 1.1 seconds, he was just starting to fall out of that slipstream range at this point.
You see the face sort of dropped as well on the Yamanaka there. I think that mistake mentally sort of halted his charge as well. Maybe he thought at this point, you know what, I'm having moments, and you can see coming out onto the last corner there, those medium tyres, despite being a bit more durable than the soft that went on before, they were starting to fall away.
Absolutely, coming in towards the business end of this race we were, and it was Kokubun who managed to extend that advantage to 9.5 seconds as he rounded the final corner. An amazing drive from Kokubun, worthy of a champion, as he came across the timing line to take the win in the Asia-Oceania regional final here for the World Series Showdown in the Nations Cup. Delight for Kokubun, relief on his face, as Kawakami came home second. Matt McEwen, the last of the drivers who automatically qualified for the grand final. And you can see what that meant to those two of Kawakami and Matt McEwen as well, doing it for the Kiwis. Final results then, here we can see Kokubun taking the win by nearly 10 seconds over Kanata.
Yeah, a commanding win there for Ryota Kokubun. Of course, Kawakami and McEwen also going through to the final. Yamanaka, Suzuki, Barbara and Wong would go through to the repechage, and we would lose Cy Bishop. But Julia is now ready with Ryota Kokubun for his thoughts on that Asia-Oceania race.
Yeah, so I'm here with Ryota Kokubun. Well, welcome, well done. Congratulations on winning your regional final there. How was it? Was it fun watching that back on the screen?
じゃあ、またザルツブルクに戻って来てウェルカムバックというのと、あと今回の勝利おめでとうございます。こうやって画面で見直してみて、実際に自分でまた見返して面白いですか？
はい、今のこうやってレースを見直していると気づけなかったことに気づけたり、見てて面白いなと思いました。
Yeah, it's actually pretty fun for me to watch it back later because then I start seeing things that I didn't notice the first time around when I was actually doing it.
What did you notice?
気づいたことってどういったことがありますか？
周りの状況だったり、自分の走りが傍から見てどういうふうに見えるかということに気づきました。
Yeah, so it's usually the situation around me, and also what I look like to others when I'm driving on track.
How did you find it? How has the level of competition been this year so far? Has it been tough, or are you finding it? Is it okay?
今年のライバルというかコンペティションのレベルというのはどんな感じですか？結構強敵が多いですか？それとも割と楽な感じですか？
はい、今年は本当に強力な選手が多くて、どの選手もライバルだと思っています。
Yeah, I think this year there's a lot of powerful competitors, and I think every one of them is really a rival for me.
Okay. So who would you say is from your region? No spoilers. From your region, who is your top rival? Do you think?
じゃあ今自分のリージョンの中で一番ライバル視しているのは誰でしょう？
多すぎてちょっと頭に思い浮かばないです。
Yeah, there's actually too many that I can't pick one.
Okay, fair enough. Well, huge congratulations for winning your regional final. Well done, and good luck going into the grand final.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that is the Genesis Group X Group 3, or Genesis X Group 3 machine, I do apologise. That is the car the drivers will be competing in for this Repechage race, brand new to GT7. Bit of a stunner.
Yeah, cool car to have there as well. And of course, as you can see, Igor Fraga telling us there's nothing better than a live event than a side-by-side battle on track. And we're going to see a lot of that in our upcoming Repechage highlights, because it was a spicy one.
Yeah, it certainly was. Of course, the Repechage is the last chance saloon for these drivers. So those who finish 4th to 7th in their respective regional finals have got one more opportunity, one bite at the cherry, if you like, to get themselves into the grand final. And it's only the top 3 drivers out of those that line up on the grid who've got the opportunity to do that. So it's all-out war between them, and this is the venue. It's Watkins Glen, but not the full layout, the short course, just to make things a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, I think glorified oval would be a kind way of putting that circuit there, which means slipstreaming aplenty, and we like that. Here is your Repechage lineup, and a few faces in there that you might not expect. I think foremost, Valerio Gallo there, of course, being knocked out of his race in the EMEA region. Bonnelli in there as well, and Yamanaka. 3 very quick drivers starting at the front, but of course, other drivers in there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Very keen to see what they were going to be able to do. Let's run you through this circuit then, and the tyre configurations, etc. So the Genesis X Group 3 machine, racing medium and soft tyres will be available for them over the course of a 20-lap race. You can see ×3 tyre wear there as well, so it always makes things interesting when you have a little bit of strategy, and here is what that tyre strategy is expected to be. So if you start on the softs, we reckon you'll run it for about 8 laps or so, and then the last 12 would be on the mediums, 10 laps on the mediums if you start on it, 10 laps on the softs, so 50-50 effectively is how we were expecting things to work out. What were your thoughts going into this race, Jimmy? Because there was a lot of tension after those regional finals that we had, and again, not many places up for grabs.
Yeah, I mean, especially for someone like Valerio Gallo, our 2021 Nations Cup champ, to find himself in the next live event, actually, he's having to fight to get now through to the final. And there was pressure on him. We were watching him earlier on. He didn't quite look his chirpy self, did he?
No, I spoke to him actually before we went into this one. He said, do you know what, to be honest with you, I made a bit of a mess of it. And yeah, that's life, isn't it? He said, I've just got to do a good race. And if I can get myself through into the grand final, then that would be all it counted for. Let's have a look then, shall we, at some highlights then from this repechage race for the Gran Turismo World Series Showdown in the Nations Cup. The top 3 drivers will progress through into the grand final then, and here is how the grid lined up for this one. So you can see that Valerio Gallo started on pole position. Alongside him on the front row was the Brazilian Lucas Bonnelli. Then next up we had Tomoaki Yamanaka, who was right on the back of Matt McEwen in that race, but to no avail in the Asia-Oceania region. Blajan lining up alongside him. Dean Helt, the American driver, on home soil here at Watkins Glen with Suzuki for company on the next row of the grid. Koke Lopez, again a driver we weren't expecting to see here in the repechage. Ethan Lim, the Canadian, alongside him. Guy Barbara in P9, the Australian driver I should say, with Giorgio Mangano, the Italian, inside the top 10. Robbie Heck on the final row of the grid, and completing it was Jonathan Wong. So 12 drivers were to take to the grid. Here are the different tyre strategies, as you can see, before we get this race underway, as we bring you highlights from the repechage then. Gallo, Bonnelli, Yamanaka starting on the soft tyres, and likewise a couple of drivers a bit further down, Dean Helt and Robbie Heck also following suit here. So what was the name of the game going into this one here, Jimmy?
It's a difficult one to call, because Watkins Glen, this configuration, the shorter course, is massive slipstream opportunities. That's basically how I describe this circuit. So if you're on that soft compound tyre, great, but then be aware that you're actually going to be dragging the guys on that slower compound, the medium, with you as well, if you sort of try and bolt away. So it's a very hard circuit to call tyres on. I think it's all about just being consistent and making the most of the bus stop and the slower speed corners to try and pull away.
Yeah, absolutely. So it would be Valerio Gallo who led the field around, as we bring you highlights then from this repechage race for the Gran Turismo World Series Showdown here at the Watkins Glen circuit. The race got underway with a rolling start as Gallo led the pack down towards turn number 1. You can see it's a relatively short run into that first corner. The field relatively spread out from one another there as well, so no moves being made through into there. But of course that's not really an overtaking opportunity at this point of the race anyway. It's up the rise and in towards the bus stop chicane, where we would see drivers closing up. Of course those behind Valerio Gallo were all benefiting from that slipstream in front, but of course it's one of those things, if someone's got it, everybody else has got it. But Dean Helt decided to try and get himself up involved in the action, as he set about trying to find his way past Patrick Blajan into the bus stop, but not quite close enough to mount a challenge on that first lap.
And this actually was the downfall of Dean Helt straight away, because he threw the car up the inside last minute on Patrick Blajan and picked up a fairly sizable 1.5 second penalty. And that means that pretty much put him out of the running straight away. He needed to try and stay in the tow of the cars in front, and unfortunately due to that penalty there, it took him out of contention very early on.
Yep, absolutely right. You can see there 1.5 seconds then here was the penalty that Dean Helt was able to get. There was an incident under investigation here for Mangano, Barbara and Robbie Heck for colliding with another car on that first lap. It all got a little bit messy in the mid-pack. Drivers, of course, really trying to get their elbows out, knowing that it was that last chance saloon. You can see Yamanaka then here closing up onto the back of Lucas Bonnelli as we rode on board here with the Samurai up on the rise, as he tried to close up onto the back of the Brazilian and mount a serious challenge. On lap 2 we are. This is where Dean Helt had to serve his penalty. It didn't just drop him in time, it dropped him in position as well, as Blajan found his way through. But not only Blajan, Suzuki, Lopez also trying to get involved in the action as they went into the left-hander, the penultimate corner here at the Glen, flicking it through into the right, and Lopez there still trying to keep himself involved in the action. Across the timing line we went, Gallo trying to extend that advantage up to 1 second, trying to get himself out of useful slipstreaming range here in this race. And then there was a keen eye for Dean Helt as he tried to recover after a poor couple of laps.
The problem is, because of that penalty and because of the issues earlier on, he actually ended up falling back quite a bit. But at the front, it was still all action as Yamanaka went for the move on Lucas Bonnelli. Really a very aggressive move from Yamanaka, exactly what we're used to seeing from him, and up into second place and in pursuit of Valerio Gallo. Meanwhile, Robbie Heck was busy picking up penalties, and Koke Lopez was having to deal with Suzuki. So the very fierce battle in the midfield of the medium runners, but they were falling away from the soft runners. They were squabbling a bit too much, and this was the trouble here. It's only the top 3 that would go through for the grand final. So fighting over this position, I think, was a downfall for a lot of these guys.
That's the thing when you get involved in those squabbles. Though it is good fun and great entertainment for us here commentating, unfortunately it is not brilliant in terms of making up ground on your fellow competitors. Suzuki knew that as he decided to keep himself in the slipstream there. Koke Lopez a little bit later on in the race, you can see here Yamanaka versus Lucas Bonnelli, these two going toe-to-toe into the chicane, and Yamanaka getting ahead of the Brazilian driver. That was a really nice move in the bus stop.
If you were to define something like Yamanaka in the dictionary, that would come up. Around the outside, aggressive, easy, done. Valerio Gallo out front seemed actually fairly chilled out. It's a race he likes to lead. He likes to lead from the front and control the pace, and he's doing that very well in his Repechage. Meanwhile, it was all action down in the midfield. Koke Lopez, Giorgio Mangano and Ethan Lim were all going toe-to-toe, bumper to bumper for pretty much the entirety of the race, despite the fact that Koke Lopez picked up a penalty midway through. He was still putting his best foot forward and trying to catch the Canadian driver in front. But of course, again, it was only the top three that went through, and because of his squabbling, they actually ended up falling back a little bit from Patrick Blajan in front.
I think they kind of realised that actually, do you know what, sod it, we're not going to make it through, so you might as well have a bit of fun with it, to be honest with you. All the pit stops have now taken place at this point in the race as well. You can see lap 11 out of 20 we're on as we bring you highlights of this repechage. That everybody else has made their pit stops, so the drivers who started on the softs are now on the mediums. They're on the slower compound of tyre, but such is the advantage they were able to pull out in the opening few laps. They weren't under any immediate pressure. Saya Suzuki, though, was under pressure from Giorgio Mangano as they came down to the bus stop, and like candy from a baby, he went through with a beautiful replication of Yamanaka's move that we saw a couple of laps ago, and Lopez decided to try and get involved in the party too.
Yeah, as you say, I think at this point now we're just like, we ain't going through, let's have a fight, a fist fight, and it was really awesome to watch. You see Koke Lopez, no stranger to getting his elbows out in one of these GT live events, and following Suzuki up the hill, and you can see the draft here in effect as we just close up slowly to the back of the car in front. Of course, everyone in the same machinery, everyone in the Genesis X Group 3 car. And I think, as you so eloquently put earlier on, Tom, it's just a squishy bit behind the wheel that's the difference.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? The organic bit behind the wheel is what makes the difference in a car, and you can see here these drivers were certainly not giving a quarter, though, as we said, it wasn't for anything meaningful other than a bit of pride and a bit of fun. It was great to see some of the world's best drivers in Gran Turismo going head-to-head with one another. You can see Blajan there, unfortunately, picking up a penalty and dropping right down the field. The Hungarian driver not having a particularly brilliant day in the office, and unfortunately in the repechage, it just compounded his woes after what was a difficult start that then just unfortunately spiralled out of control. It's that snowball effect, isn't it? It can kind of go from bad to worse, really.
It can do, and in this race it did for a lot of the drivers there. Giorgio Mangano on the back of Dean Helt, of course, who was on that alternate strategy. Didn't work out, though, for those, because it was down to the final lap, and it would be Valerio Gallo who would make up for his 4th place in the EMEA regional final with a win in the repechage. Yamanaka would be 2nd, and Lucas Bonnelli would take the final spot in the grand final for the Nations Cup here at the 2022 Showdown in Salzburg.
Great job from Tomoaki Yamanaka, making it through. Likewise, Valerio Gallo there, as well as Lucas Bonnelli. Here are the results then. Gallo taking a commanding victory, 3.6 seconds. The reigning champion on top in the repechage by the skin of his teeth. He made it through. From Yamanaka, from Lucas Bonnelli. Then, unfortunately, we say goodbye to Dean Helt, Giorgio Mangano, Koke Lopez, Ethan Lim, Patrick Blajan, Jonathan Wong, Saya Suzuki, Robbie Heck and Guy Barbara. They will progress no further in the World Series Showdown. A big shame there for them. Julia, though, is with the man who made it through in dominant fashion from the repechage, Valerio Gallo.
Yes, I'm here with Valerio. How are you doing? I mean, you worried me a little bit there. I was a bit like, Valerio, what's going on? What's going in the repechage? What's happening? What happened? Come on, tell us what happened in your region.
Man. Yeah, first of all, like...
It was close, though. It was really scrappy. It was really close.
Yeah, of course, my intention there in the semi-final was to win the race, because if I would have won the race, I wouldn't be... let's say, in a much more easier position for the grand final. And so I tried the undercut on Rosete, which was working, but yeah, because of the tire wear, I couldn't really defend on him, even trying some moves on him. But yeah, and then also for this fight, and yeah, I also got overtaken by the other guys. And yeah, it
was going to and fro in that regional final. It was really anyone's. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like you were so far behind. It could really have gone any way. But let's talk about the repechage. Like, I mean, smashed it. You did really good. Talk us through your strategy.
I was basically alone with myself in that moment because, like, I really didn't want to miss the opportunity to join the grand final. And, you know, it was a moment to, let's say, restart my mind and, let's say, delete everything that happened before. So, and I will still keep trying for the grand final.
Yeah, of course. And I think with all of these things, you know, obviously everyone comes into this, they want to come, you know, top in their region, go straight through the grand final. But, you know, there are so many things and so many people and so many variables at play. But what matters, though, is that you're in the grand final. That's what counts.
Yeah, of course. And, you know, right now I have nothing to lose. And I think it can be anyone's play, but as well, yeah, it's not... Like, I'm starting behind, there could be traffic, but in the end, I feel like strategy can be really an important matter. And also, in this race, in the grand final race, we're going to see really a big mix of things. So yeah.
I think, you know, come on, you're in the grand final, shake it all off, you've made it through. Massive good luck to you. Come on, you know you can do it. You've won this all before. Come on, this is just old hat now. And speaking of people who've won it before, Valerio included, we've got some little VT of some of our smash hit champions. Let's take a look.
My name is Igor Fraga, and I'm the 2018 Nations Cup World Champion.
I'm Michael Hissal. I'm the 2019 Nations Cup World Champion.
And it's me, Valerio Gallo, the 2021 Nations Cup World Champion.
To become world champion, I think you gotta work very hard for it. You gotta keep fighting, never give up. It's gonna be really tough. Obviously, it's a world championship, so you gotta fighting the whole world basically. But yeah, you have to just keep going for it and try to learn as much as possible. Like every day, you gotta improve yourself.
As for myself, last year has been magical. It was one of my dreams I've been chasing for basically my whole life. And in the last years, I'm even learned by these guys here. And now being here is also thanks to all the guys, to all the community.
You need to be consistent in what you are basically doing. Even if you're not the fastest in, let's say, the race combination, but by being consistent, you can always like grab those points. And if somebody else does a mistake, then you can basically use that as your advantage.
When approaching the races, mostly you feel the anxiety of yourself and of your performance, of what it's going to be like. You should really try to think about the present, not too much ahead, even though if the strategies are another skill you should have. But for example, being more relaxed, enjoying the driving while racing can make you way more relaxed and less, say, thoughtful about the other things.
So thank you guys, everyone that has been watching.
And hopefully we will see you guys on the next time.
Grazie ragazzi, and see you in the next races.
So I'm joined by Peter Werman, who's in charge of something pretty cool, which is GT Sophy AI. So if there's anyone out there who doesn't know Sophy, explain it a little bit to us briefly.
GT Sophy is an agent that can race in the game Gran Turismo. What's really interesting about it is that GT Sophy teaches itself how to drive. We program an environment in which we give it rewards, positive reinforcement for going fast.
Like what? What's the positive? What do you give them?
Just little binary values.
Does it? Is that what AI wants?
Programming.
Little tweets.
That's what it likes.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's really weird.
And then penalties for going off the course or bumping other cars.
Yeah.
And then we let it practice, and it practices until it gets to this superhuman level.
Goodness me. Okay, so as someone who's like fairly kind of layman with all these sort of things, like how complicated was it to build, like initially? Because obviously then it's self-teaching, obviously.
Right.
Say, yeah.
It took a lot of work. It took us about a year to train, to figure out what's the best way to train this agent and what rewards and penalties to give it until we got to this level.
I don't think you want to take over coaching some of these guys, because you could do the same. Yeah, it's just different rewards, different penalties,
it is. Food,
different incentives.
Yeah, food and things, pizza.
yeah.
Actually, I don't know enough about driving to coach these guys.
What? You just built an AI?
I let it learn how to drive.
Oh, I see. That's the key thing. You don't have to learn anything. You just have to teach it how to learn.
That's right.
Teach
exactly.
an AI to fish.
That's right.
I mean, it's pretty kind of crazy. What was the sort of thinking behind it? Why was it created?
It's a great way to experiment with the latest AI techniques and find out just how far we can push them. It's a great environment for that.
Is it kind of scarily good?
It is pretty good, yeah.
I'm sort
really
of terrified but excited all at the same time. Is that right? Is that the right reaction?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
If you're a driver and you see it coming behind you, you know it's coming.
Okay. Well, I believe we actually had some of our drivers take a bit of a turn and see who's going to come out on top. Real-life drivers or Sophie? Are you excited to find out? Because
yes.
I am. Let's take a look.
GT Sophy is an AI racing agent that can combine speed, skill, and racing etiquette to be able to compete with the best racers at GT.
Sophy's biggest strength is like being precise. It's just perfect every time. As a human, I can't do that.
In certain situations, I think it's possible to stay one step ahead, but in terms of pure speed, Sophy is, I don't know, already 2 or 3 steps ahead of us.
I really want Sophy to put on a good show. And more importantly, I want to be able to convince the viewers that they would want to have Sophy in the game to help them have a better experience when they play GT7.
If I should really say something to Sophie, I will beat you. Just wait.
It is the GT Sophy AI versus some of the world's best Gran Turismo 7 competitors. You can see the AI there using all of the circuits to try and maximise as much possible speed as they can.
Wow, looks like Rouge is just taking the lead away from Valerio Gallo. So Sophy AI already up into first.
Oh, look at that as Emily Jones getting really sideways there, losing 1 position, losing 2. Nose to tail bumper to spoiler as Violette sends it up the inside of Tomoaki Yamanaka.
So AI versus AI for the last few corners.
I think Rouge is just going to hold on. The checkered flag is out and Sophie Rouge takes the win. Second race for Race Together 2022 at the Autodrome Lago Maggiore is underway. We're 4 wide on the exit of the corner here as Yamanaka goes and picks the pocket of them all. And Sophie Rouge really looking aggressive on the back of Tomoaki Yamanaka.
Oh, a little bit of contact there with Yamanaka, but Rouge up into second place.
Go the long way round the outside here at Lago Maggiore. And it's going to be a run then to the line. And I think Gallo is just about going to hold on. He does. Valerio Gallo wins.
I think our vision has always been to try to get Sophy to enhance the human experience. And by having an AI agent that can drive as well as the car does, we're trying to give an experience to people who want to improve their skill, who want to have more fun, ideally a combination of both, and that's what we're aiming for.
Wow. Emily Jones, you were actually racing against AI Sophy there. What was it like?
Terrifying. Just so fast all the time. And aggressive, and yeah, it's too much. Very scary.
Yeah, I mean, does this mean that Valerio Gallo is a robot?
Yeah, he's like the one of us who can beat it. He's the chosen one. I don't know how he did it. It's magic. He's very, very fast.
Impressive. I mean, yeah, I think what was really interesting, talking to Peter earlier, the fact that they give us the AI rewards. I don't know why that's really bugging me, but that seems like a strange...
Yeah, like little data bits or something.
Jump.
Yeah, it's weird. Like that they were talking. I was talking to the AI engineers, and they kind of introduced like limiters. Like they kind of punish the robot if it uses too much steering angle, or maybe if they like slide the tires, and that's kind of how they
How do you punish now?
No,
like do you cut off internet access?
You threaten to like disconnect it. Yeah,
I'm going to pull that Ethernet plug out if you don't behave. Stay on your racing line. Come on now. Oh, it's kind of sort of terrifying, but great.
Yeah.
But I suppose it's quite. I mean, I think what they're trying to do is obviously like prove that it can beat humans, and then maybe like scale it back, and it's a useful tool.
Yeah, definitely. So they've already apparently scaled it back a little bit for us because it was smashing us in practice. It was like just a little bit, yeah. Especially at the dirt race, it was like absolutely killing us, and it was a little bit terrifying. But yeah, they've turned it down a little bit, and I think it's about finding that balance of like speed and aggression, because they're so good at racecraft as well. You can have a really good battle with them, which is, I think the best thing about the AI compared to any other AI that I've ever raced against.
Yeah, and it looks unbelievably impressive, but also how great to practice, you know, what a great thing, you know, if you can't necessarily get online, you want to actually have some fierce competition.
100%, like it's so aggressive, like they'll run you out of road and do stuff that these drivers here will do, but it's so hard to practice that until you get to a world kind of final.
That's a really good point, actually. Yes, it's a really good way of just training up and getting better to like potentially become good enough to come here.
Yeah, potentially. And they said that it doesn't like have revenge or like hold grudges, but like
I don't know.
I squeezed one off the road, and the next corner they came back and killed me. So it was like I feel like it's more human-like than I expected.
But you probably want that though, right? Because a human would not like take that lying down, and that's the sort of aggression you would see on track.
Yeah, I guess like none of these drivers would leave an inch if you race them, and Sophie's like that. Sophie never leaves an inch. It was always would leave me just a car width on the exit, and it was really good practice, but it was pretty intense. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I am, again, still quite terrified but excited all at the same time. But thank you so much for chatting to us about it. And yeah, look forward to the future because it is happening. Right, well, thank you so much, Emily. But now I feel it is time. It's almost the main event. It's almost going to be the grand final of this Nations Cup. Are you guys ready? Yeah? They've been waiting to show you their very, very best. So let's throw it over now to the Nations Cup.
Well, the tension is in the air. The first Nations Cup live event in 2.5 years here for the Gran Turismo World Series. It is the showdown in Salzburg. We are so excited to bring you this one. Lots of tension in the air. Valerio Gallo made it through by the skin of his teeth in the repechage. Tonight he expects to have the greatest rivalry of his life. Wants to let the show begin.
Well, let's get on with it, just like us.
Yeah, I tell you what, it is going to be hugely, hugely exciting. We've got 12 drivers ready to take to the grid in a 45-minute race as well. And who have you got your eye on for this one?
It's really hard to look by Igor Fraga. Absolutely dominating in his final, and he's just been kind of on form. He's come back into that form that we know he's got. Very reminiscent of 2018. Fraga, I'd say.
Yeah,
I
say that he starts on the front row of the grid. I tell you who has made a step up, though. Jose Serrano. Starts on pole position. I mean, the last Spaniard we saw doing well on the world stage at these live events was Coque Lopez. Now Serrano's coming and he's cleaning up.
It's sort of taken the baton from Coque Lopez, really. He's been showing that he can mix it up with these champion drivers, Gallo and, of course, Fraga as well. And that's good. You've got to have that mindset to not be intimidated by these guys. And I think that he's really showing that he belongs in the stage. You know, again, definitely a competitor for the win here today.
Well, we talk about these drivers a lot. Let's introduce you to our 12 competitors in the Nations Cup Grand Final then, shall we, here for the 2022 Gran Turismo World Series. Lucas Bonnelli from Brazil. Please welcome him on to the stage. Next up, we have from Japan, Tomoaki Yamanaka. 2021 Nations Cup champion of the world, Valerio Gallo makes it through. And he will line up on the grid for the grand final. Then from New Zealand, welcome from Matt McEwen. All the way from Chile in South America, it is Angel Inestrosa. Taking the baton or the baguette for France, whichever way you want to put it, Kylian Drumont lines up on the grid. And next up we look at Japan, Kanata Kawakami. The Brazilian Adriano Carrazza, he's not afraid to get his elbows out. Can he take the fight to the front? From France, Baptiste Beauvoir, we know him very well indeed. Can he be up the sharp end, though, here in the grand final? What about Ryota Kokkoman? A dominant performance in the Asia-Oceania regional final. Can that be converted into a win here tonight? Well, they'll have to try and depose this man, the 2018 champion, Igor Fraga from Brazil. And finally, the winner of the EMEA regional final, Jose Serrano from Spain.
What an absolutely epic field we have here today. I can't believe all these drivers are here on one circuit. Of course, here are the lineup for the first of the grand final coming up very shortly. I can't wait to get into this one, Tom.
No, I am super excited. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are moments away from the grand final for the Nations Cup, about to get underway here at Salzburg in Austria. But first of all, we would like your respect, please, for the national anthem of our host nation here in Austria. Well, the Austrian national anthem plays out here at the Red Bull Hangar 7 in Salzburg. We are moments away from racing action to begin in the grand final for the Nations Cup. Jimmy, we asked you just a few moments ago who you're keeping your eyes on. Now you've seen the drivers on stage. Anybody looking a bit nervous?
You know who's got the swagger? Baptiste Beauvoir. He came out like, yeah, right, I've got this. I reckon, mate, I reckon he's got a chance today. He's always kind of the bridesmaid, never the bride, but he's always had the speed. And maybe that little break away from the live events has done him some good.
Absolutely. Well, we've been asking not only Jimmy Broadbent, but you at home for your predictions then for this race. Who you think is going to do well? Unsurprisingly, 2018 champ Igor Fraga was up there. Takuma Miyazono, of course, not competing here. These is what the results, the votes were put out basically before we knew that Takuma was sadly unable to attend. Bonnelli getting some good love in there as well, too.
Yeah, I was quite interested to see Angelina Stroza get some love there from Chile. I mean, I don't think he's... did he make it into the final? I don't think he did. So, sorry for you guys down the 3% there, but also surprisingly, Valerio Gallo only getting 8% of the vote despite being champion last year.
Absolutely. Well, don't forget, of course, we are live here in 7 languages here tonight as well. We've got our international commentary team lined up. We are live in German. We've got Mikkel and Florian in the booth there, repping the Germans. In the French booth, we have Donald and Fabian. Over to Spain, Alberto Perez and Lucas Ordonez, the passionate Italians, Emilio Cozzi and Andrea Facchinetti. Then it is Gonzalo Gomez and Francisco Melo for Portugal, and Nakajima-san and Yamada-san from Japan here as well. And you can join us, of course, as you are doing so at the moment, in English, live in 7 different languages, ready to go for this one. I tell you what, I cannot wait. I just want to go.
Yeah, definitely. Me too. Grand final coming up, and here is the track that our racers will be competing on today. It's Trial Mountain, of course, epic circuit, a circuit that's been part of the Gran Turismo franchise since its inception, all the way back in 1997. God, I'm old. It's been a long time. An awesome circuit for racing, of course. A little bit different from how you might remember it back in the day, with a couple of changes made for the sake of racing. And the car, first time you're seeing the car, we're back. We're back in the Red Bull X 2019. High downforce, incredible cornering speeds. Not too slow down the straight either.
No, they are very fast machines, Red Bull X 2019s, and it is great to have them back in live racing here for GT7. You can see 30 laps there as well. 3 tyre compounds available, soft, medium, and hards. There's the difference in pace right at the top. You can see the difference in strategies as well. Be keen to see what the drivers are going to be able to do, and you can see their fuel will be a consideration in this one for the first time this weekend as well. You'll only get 16 laps on a full tank, so drivers are going to have to think about when they put the juice in their car.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very important for the guys to get that fuel right, because it does take quite a bit of time to get that fuel put into the car during the pit stop. So if you're behind someone, maybe you comfort your pace second place, maybe just lift and coast a little bit short shift, and by the time you get to the pit stop, you'll just jump them on fuel. So a lot of considerations taken into account here for this final.
We talk also about adaptability for these drivers, because in the Nations Cup, you're not just competing in one car class, you've got high downforce, low downforce. If you look at the Super Formula drivers, I mean the drivers in the Asia-Oceania region final that we had a few minutes ago when we saw highlights of it, they were high downforce. Do you think that will give them a little bit of an upper hand coming into this?
Yeah, you could argue that. You definitely could argue that, because it's the most similar car to this. It's very twitchy, this X2019. It's all about sort of twitch reactions and getting precise inputs exactly at the right time. In fact, Sophy would be great at this. It's got Sophy AI written all over it. But we've seen in the past as well, you know, Igor's been pretty good in the X2019, so has Valerio Gallo. I said the best person I've seen in the X2019 isn't actually racing today, it's Mick Cazal, but they're probably glad for that down there, to be honest, aren't they?
I can imagine, yeah. I mean, to be fair, who can forget his 2019 performance at Monaco when he dominated proceedings? I mean, I've never seen a drive like that.
The thing is, we've not seen that sort of drive since, and what that tells me is the level of competition has just steadily risen and risen and risen, especially, of course, of the long period we had where we were all sort of stuck indoors. A lot of these guys spent their time perfecting their craft here on Gran Turismo, and my God, did it show.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the cream always rises to the top, and I tell you what, the level of competition, a couple of years ago, it was good, right? Now it is exceptionally good. I can't believe how close it is. I mean, and you look at the gaps we've had in qualifying, half a tenth here, a millisecond there. I mean, it just doesn't get much better than that, and that is going to set us up for a treat of a race.
Yes, definitely. And we did mention, of course, that these guys have been sort of stuck indoors, as we all were for a while, for a couple of years, and because of that, these guys aren't quite as used to being on this stage, being back here. So those who have been here before, those who are used to the lights, used to the noise, used to the cameras being shoved in their faces relentlessly, those guys, I think, will have a bit of an advantage here, handling that pressure, because there is a pressure at these events, and you can feel it.
Yeah, of course, it's different competing at home when you're in your sitting room or your bedroom or your office or wherever your sim rig happens to be. But like you say, when you're on an international stage, you've got these sim rigs up here, you've got an audience that are watching at home, competitors watching on. It does add that extra element of pressure, and we have seen drivers cracking under pressure. One thing, though, I am particularly looking forward to is we get to see the visual emotion of the drivers as well. Ryota Kokkerman, of course, is competing here. He lines up third on the grid. He thinks Igor Fraga is going to be the most difficult driver to beat.
Yeah, I think, you know, these guys have been racing together for a very long time. So I think the first final had both of them in it, and it was toe-to-toe back then. And not much has really changed. So I think getting away from the start of this, the first few laps is going to be essential for everybody. It's really easy at the start to get into sort of pointless fights and slow each other down. Strategy is going to be key here, so it's key that they all run their strategy at the right time of the race and don't get caught up in any silly fights.
Well, enough talking. Let's start racing then, shall we? Let's go for the grand final for the Nations Cup in the 2022 Gran Turismo World Series Showdown. It has been 2.5 years since we last saw live racing action for the Nations Cup in the Gran Turismo World Series. And now the drivers are lined up on the grid, ready to go. And here is how the field will sit then for the grand final here in the Red Bull X2019s at Trial Mountain. Starting on pole position from Spain, it is Jose Serrano. Alongside him on the front row is Igor Fraga from Brazil, the 2018 champ. Ryota Kokkerman leads the charge for Japan from third on the grid. He has got the fast-charging Baptiste Beauvoir for company alongside. Adriano Carrazza, the second of our Brazilian drivers, is P5. Kanata Kawakami lines up sixth on the grid. Kylian Drumont, the second of the Frenchmen, is seventh. And then next up, it is Angel Inestrosa from Chile. Inside the top 10, Matt McEwen, the Kiwi, what can he do? With Valerio Gallo, the 2021 reigning champ alongside him. Tomoaki Yamanaka on the final row of the grid with Lucas Bonnelli bookending the field here at Trial Mountain. Our first look at the tyre strategies here, Jimmy, and no soft tyres.
No, not yet. People, I think, opting to try and go and get the slower tyres out the way first. A rolling start down here. Also a note that will affect strategy, as the pit lane will only be open until the last 5 laps of the race. So all stops have to be made by then, which does mean that we should get a nice run to the finish for the last few laps.
Certainly will. So the drivers then getting the heat into the tyres as we get ready to get racing action then underway here for the grand final of the Nations Cup. It is a rolling start here for our drivers in the Red Bull X2019s. Tension then is in the air. Jose Serrano will lead the field around the final corner. The grand final for the Nations Cup in the 2022 Gran Turismo World Series Showdown is just moments away from getting underway. Who is going to claim the checkered flag in 30 laps time? We're about to find out as Nations Cup action is underway here at Trial Mountain. Down towards the first corner we go. It's Serrano from Igor Fraga from Countryman from Baptiste Beauvoir, who's on the hard compound of tyres. Through into the left-hander we go and over the rise. Serrano blitzing the field as we come through, and Adriano Carazza has already picked up a penalty in the first couple of corners. That'll be for track limits, so the Brazilian driver off to a shaky start here as they come through the mountain for the first time. So it is Serrano leading from the front, 0.3 of a second ahead of Igor Fraga, but you know that Fraga is going to try and challenge as they come through the slipstream. He's wide there, is Serrano as well. That's allowing Fraga to close right up onto the back of the Spanish driver as we come onto the long back straight for the first time. He sits in the slipstream here, does Igor Fraga, and you know he is going to be able to pounce as he comes towards the inside and challenges for the race lead. Fraga is in front as we come into the braking zone.
In the background as well, moves being made. I think Kokeman having a look at Carazza, but Carazza in third place for now with that 0.5 second penalty. So dream start there for Igor Fraga, already getting rid of Jose Serrano, and now he's got to try and get his head down, eyes forward, and make as big a gap as possible. Of course, all 5 drivers in the top 5 on that medium compounder tyre, so it's a level playing field with Carazza. Actually a strong start if you discount his penalty. It's a shame that he's got that 0.5 second penalty to serve so early on in the race. It's really going to cost him. Interestingly, Yamanaka already coming into the pit lane there to go onto that soft compounder tyre.
Well, we saw the race strategy before the start of this one. We weren't expecting it to be quite so soon from the medium to the soft compounder tyre there for Tomoaki Yamanaka, but he wants to get off of those as soon as possible and run an alternate strategy then here in this race. Will it prove to be one that pays off? They must use each tyre compound at least once in this race, but there's nothing to say they don't have to use it again if they want to, so I wonder whether he's doing something a bit left field here. Just to remind you, of course, they can only use the pits up until lap 25.
Fraga 100% on it there. You saw out the tunnel just sideways trying to put the power down in that Red Bull X 2019. Great onboard shots here from Jose Serrano. Of course, ditto last lap. It was Serrano in front of Fraga, and now he's finding himself behind Fraga. Let's have a look at the slipstream effect. Will he be close enough? I don't think he will. The difference is last lap, Fraga had a great run out of the left-hander. Serrano hasn't, but we're seeing that even from half a second back, you get about 2/10 worth of slipstream there. So that's good information for these guys. They'll be thinking about that as the race goes on. Carazza now, by the way, has served his penalty. He's down to 4th position with Kylian Drumont, the first of the hard runners, in 5th position. A good start there for the Frenchman.
Yeah, he's involved in the battle here with Kanata Kawakami as we pick it up. Kanata Kawakami there on the medium tyres. This is not what he needs in this first phase of the race. The medium tyres, of course, are quicker in terms of their overall pace compared to the hard compound. What you don't want to be doing is squabbling with somebody who's on an alternate strategy to you. Somebody else coming to the pit, and I think that was in Estrosza, it was. So he comes from the hard tyres. Where's he going to go? He goes mediums at the end of lap 2.
I felt bad. I forgot Estrosza was in the race earlier. He is here, and he is definitely a competitor. Also going for a slightly different strategy. Great to see that. So, race replay here. Here's Kawakami. We're on board coming through the first sector. And that's a penalty there for Carazza. Just going over the track limits on the inside there. Really easy to do. We saw Igor Fraga do that yesterday in the Manufacturers' Cup Series set, and sending it out the inside of Baptiste Beauvoir. That's a bit rude, I think, from Kawakami. The stewards seem to think that's fine, though. So Kawakami now ahead of Beauvoir, and now stuck in a French sandwich. He's got Kylian Drumont in front of him, Beauvoir behind him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a bit of Dijon mustard at the moment, is Kanata Kawakami as he sits onto the back of Kylian Drumont then. So through the left-hander we go, onto this long back straight. He, of course, has got the advantage of the slipstream, gets a nice exit out of there. Drumont knows that, goes for the defensive line. I wonder if it might be in vain because his back straight is so long. Yeah, it is, and he knows that, Drumont. He goes towards the racing line. No point really fighting it at this early phase in the race. He can get him back on the next one if he can just keep close enough as they go into the left-hander. Kawakami up the inside, through into 5th place. Nice, clean move there. The thing what he needs now to do is just to try and build a bit of a gap here with Drumont, but of course, it's not always as easy as that. Best laid plans don't always work out.
No, definitely not. And we hope not really for the sake of drama. We like a bit of drama here on the GT test. Not that I'm a schadenfreude or anything like that. So here is Kanata Kawakami, 5th place right now on the medium compound tyre. Drumont doing really well to hang on that hard compound. Back to his profile. Fallen off a little bit there, as has Valerio Gallo, who's made his way through the field, of course, from the back, one of the Repechage, or the first of the Repechage runners to get a place here. Igor Fraga, though, a bit of a steady gap here at 8 tenths to Jose Serrano. Last lap time, though, was quicker by about 2 tenths of a second. So Fraga steadily pulling away at the front of the field, though on that lap, it was Karatsa who was fastest around, doing a 1:29.9, except for Tomoaki Yamanaka, who did a 28.4 in the back there in the 11th place in clean air.
I wonder if he is doing that left field strategy there, Tomoaki Yamanaka. Let's see what he decides to do. Either way, he's got great pace underneath him as we look at this battle. 3 drivers running nose to tail with one another. That is Serrano, Cockburn and Adriano Karatsa, the Brazilian who we're on board with. And this is going to be a dice for position. You can bet your bottom dollar as we come down the back straight then. So Karatsa sits in the slipstream. Cockburn, of course, is being pulled along here by Jose Serrano. But look here at the overspeed for the Brazilian driver as he has a look up the inside, dives down to the inside into the left-hander, uses the camber on the inside of that corner and goes through into 3rd place.
Karatsa looking seriously pacey right now in that X2019. He's been quick in this car before and he's showing he's got the speed today as well. Now up behind Jose Serrano, and to be fair, making him look fairly slow at this point. You're seeing at the moment Igor Fraga using quite a lot of fuel. This might explain why Serrano's not quite keeping up with the Brazilian driver in front, opting to try and save a little bit of fuel and have a shorter pit stop. It is much easier to find time in that pit stop than it is on circuit.
Beauvoir and McEwen into the pit lane then at the end of lap 4. So, as you said, fuel is really important. We expect it to be about 16 laps or so, there and thereabouts, in this race. That's how long it will go for. Of course, the drivers will have to tie that into their pit stops when they change over their tyres as well. So it's a case of when you make those longer stops, because if you do it earlier in the race, you might take the hit initially and drop out of contention, but it might come back into your favour later on once the strategies all play out. Whereas if you do it later on and you're dicing with somebody and you're only a couple of tenths of a second away, then you come into the pits and you have to take a longer stop. It can also, in turn, drop you out of contention right when it matters.
Basically, get a pen and paper out, write everything down, because there's a lot of stuff going on all the time and it's hard to keep track of. We'll do our best for you guys, of course, at home as we ride on board with Karatsa now. He's only half a second behind Jose Serrano, getting a nice big toe down the straight here. Cockburn just behind us in our mirrors as we come down to this left hand. You can see Igor Fraga there heading the field. Serrano, Karatsa all a little bit slow there on the inside, just had to catch a bit of a slide from the X 2019. This medium compound tyre is going to start wearing a little bit now at this stage. Not a lot, but it is going to be a bit slower than it was at the start compared to that hard tyre, which will be looking strong. And again, Kylian Drumont leading the hard tyre charge. Now, speaking of charging, here's Tomoaki Yamanaka on the soft compounder tyre, making everyone look very, very slow at the moment. A second lap faster than anybody, and we have a pit stop.
Yeah, right, driving like he's left the gas on at the moment is Tomoaki Yamanaka. So Fraga then into the pit lane here, as well as Valerio Gallo, Kylian Drumont and Lucas Bonnelli also following him through. So where does Fraga go? He goes onto the hard compound of tyre. No fuel being taken on board at the moment, so he's going to emerge with a relatively quick stop, sort of in the middle of everything really at the moment, but he's not too far behind or indeed in front of anybody, so no immediate pressure as it stands right now for Fraga to worry about.
No, not at the moment. So Fraga has a little bit of time just to kind of relax, and he's got a nice gap around him. So this is easy for him right now. Just do what he knows best, put in those lap times, be consistent. But we have seen a couple of little moments, a couple of little slides. Meanwhile, our leader is Jose Serrano at the moment. He's yet to stop, though, as are the first 4 drivers. You see it's a bit of a train right now. Karatsa still on the toe of Serrano in front, but not quite able to get close enough to make a move. So these guys maybe playing it sensible, just working together a little bit right now, just trying to move the the train along as far as they can, because they're all realistically fighting Fraga, they're all realistically fighting Yamanaka as well on this alternate strategy, and it's anyone's guess as to how this is all going to end up, but every part of this race is important, and they have to make sure to make the most of every part of this stint.
Cockburn was the fastest of this trio last time around, only by a tenth of a second or so, but certainly has good pace underneath him with a medium compacted tyre. Drivers continuing on, not coming into the pit lane then at the end of lap number 6 through that chicane. Of course, reprofiled here for Trial Mountain on Gran Turismo 7. Turns it into a much safer overtaking opportunity for our drivers. No chance of diving down the inside, and Fraga then back into the pit. So he does one lap on the hard tyres, then comes straight in for a set of soft boots as we see Corazza closing up onto the back of Jose Serrano here through the left-hander, then through the right. I absolutely love the sensation of speed you get here with the Rebel X 2019s. As you said here, Jimmy, Corazza is looking very, very pacey behind the wheel of that machine as his compatriot is in the box.
So Fraga going for the free stop strategy, it seems, trying to double stint those softs. And a free stop means you have to basically be on it every lap, qualifying laps. It's a very aggressive strategy. You have to know the car, you have to know exactly the limits of a tyre you're on, whereas these guys, a bit more traditional strategy, just trying to make the use of both tyres. Both have their ups and downs, and I'm interested to see how they compare as time goes on. But interestingly, Igor Fraga, outside Matt McEwen, has used the most fuel so far.
Yeah, it certainly has. So into this left-hander we go. This is one of the prime overtaking opportunities here then for Adriano Corazza, and just sits there in the slipstream of Serrano. As we come through into the bottom part of the track, this is where it sort of begins to drop down. You can see the fantastic elevation here of this Trial Mountain circuit then. As we ride on board here with the Rossi Cockburn, who's keeping a good watching brief on the duo in front of him of Corazza. Serrano certainly is Corazza, yeah, but he's not quite close enough to mount an attack as it stands at the moment. But yeah, he's definitely looking pretty menacing, and I wonder if it's going to be a case of when and not if, because you bet if there's half an opportunity, Corazza is going to go for it as we start lap 8.
So here we are then, coming on to start lap 8. As you say, Serrano leading, Corazza second, Cockburn third, and Corazza getting closer and closer to the Spaniard in front. Less than a tenth into the first couple of corners there, almost running over Serrano through the first part of the course. Where will he pounce? It has to be soon, I think, because the pace he's got at the moment, he's about 2 or 3 tenths quicker than Serrano, but because he's stuck to the back of him now, his lap times come up a little bit, up to a 1:30.5, where he could be doing 30.2s, and those 3 tenths of a second are everything in a race that is going to be this tight. So we come on to the back straight now. A little bit of dirty air stopping Corazza from sticking to the back of Serrano, but he's very close. This might be it now, coming down the straight. Next corner's the left-hander. Will Serrano defend it? He's staying on the racing line for now. Corazza goes to the inside. Serrano does not defend. Corazza up into the lead here of the Nations Cup Grand Final.
Now, is he going to be able to try and build a gap to Serrano and Cockburn then? Let's see what he's going to be able to do, or is Serrano just going to sit behind him, try and retaliate and try and use the slipstream? Of course, the advantage if you're sitting in the slipstream, if you're not trying to attack the driver in front, is you can save a bit of fuel and lift off the throttle, but he's not done that, of course, and you can see that very vividly on the tower graphic. Corazza there with less fuel than both Serrano and Cockburn.
Look at Yamanaka's fuel, 58, and he's well on the charge. He's been the one behind, putting in the fastest lap time. He's only about 2 seconds behind this train, so he's almost made up a pit stop in this time already. Cockburn in the pits, going on to, we'll see what tyre he's going on to in a second, but Corazza still leading over the line, and that lap time, yeah, a little bit quicker. He's got the pace over Serrano. Cockburn opting to go onto that soft compounder tyre, but I am super interested to see where Yamanaka is in context to Karakami, Serrano and Corazza, because every lap Yamanaka does, he takes a second and a half out of that train.
It's going to be pretty close here, isn't it, I reckon, between these guys once it all plays out. So out of the pit lane comes Cockburn. There is Kilian Drumont. So Yamanaka is up the road and is ahead. Oh, look at this. Look at that closing speed. I wonder whether Cockburn, I should say, made a mistake there. Either way, it has allowed an opportunity here for the Frenchman to pull alongside as they go through into the right hand, and they run side by side and wheel to wheel through there. Cockburn muscles his way back past Kilian Drumont. So very aggressive stuff, and whether Cockburn just lit up the rear tyres, I'm not quite sure, but either way, this is an interesting scrap. And now, of course, Drumont has got the advantage of the hole being pushed in front of him. He looks up to the big screen to see what's happening in the race around him, and is he going to be able to mount an attack here on Cockburn as they come through the second phase of this back straight? He's not very close enough into the left-hander for now, but certainly this is going to get pretty spicy.
And those tyres were just cold. He came on the pit lane, pushed too hard, and had a bit of a slide. Did manage to gather it up as we saw, and he needs to stay ahead of Turismo. And look, there is Yamanaka. He's now onto the back of Kawakami. The pace difference is massive, and without a second thought, lunges up the inside of his fellow countryman up into third position, and now is only 2.5 seconds off the lead. Karatsa, he's nearly made up a pit stop on these guys on that soft tyre.
Well, I wonder whether he's doing a left field strategy coming to the pits at the end of lap 1, and he's certainly proving that it's working very beneficially for him at the moment. The crucial question, though, is what's it going to be like for fuel? Because if he has to take more fuel on board with the field as closely knit as it is right now, it could prove to be a little bit more costly for him.
Bear in mind, Yamanaka started second to last. He's now up in third on pace. This strategy is definitely working. Here is what happened with Drummond and Kokomin. We're going to the left-hander here. Drummond just goes to the back of him, then. It's a little bit of a nibble. I think maybe caught off by the speed differential. Nothing intentional there, I don't think. What about this right hand? Anything malicious here? I don't think so. No, I think that's just racing. That's Coachman's corner there. It's hard racing, but it's fair racing.
It certainly is, and you can see there no further action for the stewards between Drummond and Cockburn. Sensible decision there. Meanwhile, keep an eye out for Igor Fraga, because although he's not featuring at the front of this race for now, he is down on the soft compound of tyre, and he has got good pace underneath him here.
He's done 2 stops as well, so he's got rid of that medium, got rid of the hard tyre, so basically he's going to go on the soft tyre all the way to the end, whereas Yamanaka does owe another compound of tyre. So at this stage it might look bad for Fraga, but we're only 10 laps into the start of that race, and a lot of strategy and driving still to come. Karatsa, our leader, coming into the pit lane.
So Karatsa comes in, then he will box, goes from the mediums to the hard compound of tyre. Underfield do what everybody else is trying to, and run it for that minimum 1 lap time. On board we ride here, meanwhile, with Yamanaka. Matt McEwen also into the pits, and he goes soft. So lots of people just trying to run the soft compound of tyre, and of course they are going to have to come in once again to owe a bit of fuel in this race. Just a reminder, of course, the pit lane is only open until lap 25. Here comes Yamanaka down the inside, into the left-hander, through, into the lead. So from second to last to the front, but spins it round. Yamanaka's binned it on lap 11, out of the race lead. We were talking about pressure before the start of this one, and Yamanaka has cost himself very, very dearly indeed.
We saw those rear tyres on the tyre graphic. They were worn. He tried to apply the power, and the grip just was not there. Round he went. All that work seemingly undone. Luckily, he didn't lose too much time. I think he lost about 2 seconds there from a spin, which is very impressive to lose that little time, but still, that might be the difference. These strategies, we have to do more than one stop. You really, really need to be on it, and we are now under investigation. Was there contact between Serrano and Yamanaka? I don't think there was. I think he was through, but we're going to replay on that at some point and see if we can dissect what happened there. But Yamanaka now, lost about 2.6 seconds from that spin.
Yamanaka needs to strike while the iron's hot. That's exactly what he's done, retaliating at the next possible opportunity against Kanata Kawakami. And comes into the pit lane then, does Yamanaka. No surprise there. The tyres were under 70%, and when they get to that point, they fall off a cliff, according to the drivers. And no surprise there for Yamanaka's coming, but he's got to go onto the hard compound of tyre, let's not forget. So this could completely screw up the strategy that he was planning to run, because he's now going to be a bit further back than he would have liked, and those 2 seconds could be the difference between him battling for the win or battling inside the top 5, let's say.
This has been fascinating so far as a race. As a strategy example, I've been trying to work it all out as it's been going on and failing dismally, which is, par for the course if we're honest. But Yamanaka comes out of the pit lane. Look at that. Yeah, imagine 2 seconds on the road. Where would he be? He'd be ahead of this train.
Yeah, that is so costly there for Tomoaki Yamanaka. Meanwhile, here is Igor Fraga, who's been on the soft tyre. I said he had good pace underneath him. He's got Valerio Gallo breathing down his neck at the moment, but right in front of him is Baptiste Beauvoir and Adriano Karatsa. This, of course, is effectively for the podium positions as it stands right now. And you can see, though they are a little bit out of position in this race, Igor Fraga's right over the back and now up the inside of Baptiste Beauvoir as he goes through. So this is getting really spicy. Karatsa's out wide.
Oh!
And the contact here is all kicking off. Karatsa gets pushed down right to the bottom of this one as he spins out of this. So we'll have to dissect what happened there, but we're still side by side here with Beauvoir versus Valerio Gallo. It's French versus Italy down into the chicane, down into the hairpin, I should say, and it's Gallo who manages to hold firm for the time being.
That is huge for this race. Adriano Karatsa there spinning on the entry to the back straight. We didn't quite see what happened. It looked like he went wide there. Igor Fraga took advantage of the situation. I think he must have bounced off the wall and then collected someone and then got spun. That's my best guess from what I saw there. But that's an absolute disaster for Karatsa. He had such a good start. It was looking so fast in that. and that would be disappointing, or very disappointing, for Adriano Corazza.
Well, still the hot tyre is lava then here for these drivers in the Nations Cup Grand Final. Yamanaka comes in after one lap on the hard tyres onto the soft. As we saw, he emerged right behind a train of cars, which has proven to be very costly because, of course, he's going to have to make his way through. Now, I wonder when he's going to try and take fuel. I think it might be a bit too early at this stage. He is going to go then on to the soft competent tyre, get himself back out and try and recover something. He is going to take fuel on board then. So, as ever, I was completely wrong. Where's he going to go for this one? He has 37 litres, goes up to 55 litres then of fuel. So that should see him through to the end of this race.
I don't know. I'm not sure it will. We'll see. It might do. We still have more than half the race to run. Maybe he's opting to run light. I mean, he's doing a fair few tyre swaps now. Here, I think we're going to have a fun. Yeah, have a look now what happened to Corazza from the onboard of Valerio Gallo. So Fraga's at the inside of Beauvoir. Oh, there's contact, I think, between him and Corazza. And then, he just gets onto the grass and the slippery stuff and spins around. So that is interesting. Will we see any stewards' action from that? Because it looked like the contact from Fraga may have caused that incident.
Yeah, there was a bit of hook and shoulder there from Igor Fraga, wasn't there, as he found his way up the inside, and you can see no further action, though, has been seen between Beauvoir and Fraga there for colliding with another car, and that will be a little bit disappointing there, unfortunately, for Adriano Corazza. It's not going to recover his race, but it has meant that he is now down in 11th position, and you're absolutely spot on, by the way, Jimmy, about the fuel there. Adriano Corazza, of course, has Yamanaka, I should say, has come in last time around. He won't have enough fuel, I think, to make it to the end of this one. So I think you're right. He is going to run light in this race and just try to have as much pace as he possibly can. We saw just a moment ago ticker tape coming up. So Fraga versus Corazza under investigation. So Beauvoir versus Fraga, no further action on that. But Corazza versus Fraga, I think the stewards are going to have to be getting their pen and paper out and trying to work out what's what here.
That could have huge implications for this race. Of course, Corazza now pretty much out of it. Serrano is having to push hard at this point. He's yet to pit on that medium compound tyre. He's gone very, very long and is still staying out. I wonder if this is the strategy to be on. I don't know much about Serrano's strategic prowess at this point. I'm not sure if he's good or not, is what I'm saying, on the strategy. I know he can deliver on the circuit, but the thing that makes a truly great sim racer is the ability to be great on circuit and be great at doing all the stuff around that, the tyre strategy, the fuel, where you're placing your race car, racecraft. That really is the complete package. Let's see if Serrano has it.
Cockburn, though, he is slicing that gap down. He's on the soft compound tyre. Last time around, he was 1.5 seconds faster than Serrano in front of him. Of course, Serrano on that medium tyre, they're very much worn now and very much past their best. But Cockburn certainly closing up as Beauvoir comes into the pits then at the end of lap 14. The gap between the top two down to 0.6 of a second.
Another investigation. Getting rowdy out there in our Nations Cup Grand Final here at Salzburg. Hangar 7, great to be back here at the live event. Hope you guys are enjoying the viewing at home. Want to get involved, then let us know. Hashtag GT7 on Twitter. Let us know your favourite moments so far, or just what you think of Tom's haircut. It's not great, is it?
No, it's a good point there. Fair enough. Anyway, let's head over to a man who knows a thing or two about dealing with strategy and pressure in these environments. 2019 Nations Cup champ Mick Hazals with Julia.
Yeah, hi, Mick. So obviously, now that we've kind of got a rough idea of what everyone's strategy is about just about halfway through the race, who's looking good? Whose strategy is looking solid, do you think?
To be really honest, I have no idea, because the strategy has been so chaotic that it's really hard to have a good overlook on it. But personally, I feel like Valerio Gallo is in a pretty good position, because he was like trying to save fuel behind the entire field. And him, along with Serrano, they have like the highest amount of fuel left on their car. Yeah. So that means they need to refuel less compared to the other drivers.
Oh, drama. Sorry to cut in front of me there, Mick. Actually, we've given a 2-second penalty here for Igor Fraga following that collision with Adriano Corazza. Meanwhile, we had a change of race lead. Cockburn now leads as Serrano comes into the pit lane, as well as Kylian Drumont. So Fraga's race could be coming undone here from second place.
Yeah, massive implications for this race then. Igor Fraga, arguably the favourite so far, just been slapped with a 2-second penalty for that. He's just served it now on the main straight, so that incident with Corazza, and everyone's reacting to that pit stop. Serrano finally in to take on a new set of tyres. I bet you it will be in and out for Serrano, back in on that soft tyre straight away. Leading the race, by the way, we also saw during that interview with Cockburn getting past Serrano on circuit. And he's now 10 seconds ahead of Fraga, of course, in part thanks to that penalty that's just been served. As Mick Hazal rightly said, Valerio Gallo also there in the mix from the back of the grid. You can never count out a Gran Turismo Nations Cup champion.
Absolutely not. Started right towards the back, didn't he, down in 10th place after making it through in the repechage. Valerio Gallo, by the skin of his teeth, didn't go well in his EMEA regional final, and sadly for him, he had to compete in the repechage, but he is now fighting right up the sharp end of the field. And you can see here, we look at Jose Serrano with Angel Inestrosa trying to mount a challenge. Medium versus hard tyres, no contest there. Chilean is through and into 5th position. Next target up the road, Lucas Bonnelli.
Mate, this is a probably good race so far, isn't it? There's so much going on, so much to keep track of, and now we're going to start seeing fuel stops come into it. They're starting to run low on fuel as the field. They're all around 20%, with the exception of Yamanaka, who took a bit of fuel on earlier on to try and go fast on this middle stint. And that is really going to affect things. It's a fairly slow fueling time here in this car. It does take a little bit of time to get that fuel into the car, so the more fuel you need to get to the end, the longer you're going to sit stationary in that pit lane. Those who have managed that the best are going to be quickest when it comes to that stage of the race. So countryman leading from Fraga, Gallo third, Bonnelli 4th, and Inestrosa in 5th. We're on board with 6th place, Jose Serrano.
Fraga has now served that 2-second penalty. You can see the gap between himself and Countryman is up to 11 seconds. You don't also lose the time that you take with the penalty, not just the 2 seconds, you lose the time from slowing down here as well. And you can see Serrano now closing right up on Angel Inestrosa, or at least trying to. He's on the hard compound tyre, whereas Inestrosa is on the mediums, but Serrano looking pretty comfortable out there. It has to be said, at the moment there are fresh hard tyres for Serrano after coming into the pit lane, so he's going to have relatively good grip underneath him compared to the worn compound of mediums that Inestrosa is going to be running at the moment.
I will say that Fraga's done a good job of keeping his tyres alive, though. We tend to see the rear tyres go off before the fronts, and they're fairly equal for Igor in his X-Twin. I said, oh, there goes Matt McEwen. Hello, mate. Where'd you come from? Matt McEwen just jumping by Jose Serrano on that soft compounder tyre. And that surprised me. I think it surprised Jose Serrano as well.
Yeah, certainly did catch him unawares, didn't he, Matt McEwen? I tell you what, he's been a bit of a star here for New Zealand. The Kiwi has been really impressive out there on track, making it through, and now he's right on the back bumper of Valerio Gallo, and he's going to dive it down the inside through into 5th place. Lovely stuff here from Matt McEwen. Nice, clean overtaking, doing it for the Kiwis here as he comes in, as drivers come into the pit lane. Valerio Gallo, Inestrosa, Jose Serrano, all into the box, onto the soft tyres. Fuel's going to have to come in here as well here for these guys.
I think that was out of fear of the Kiwi juggernaut that is Matt McEwen. Get into the pit straight away. But yeah, as you say, look at Inestrosa's fuel compared to Serrano. We knew he was saving. We saw that at the front of the race. Gallo as well, a little bit less, or more, a lot more fuel, I should say, than Inestrosa. So they're both going to have shorter stops than the Chilean driver. Are they going to fuel to the end? Let's have a look at the fuel going in. You can see it on the right-hand side of your screen. That is enough fuel to end this race, and it's very easy to over-fuel in this scenario and be in the pits for too long.
Don't forget, of course, the pit lane is only open until lap 25. They can't come in after that. Lap 18 we are on, so we're getting towards the business end now of this race as Serrano emerges from the pit lane, and look at that. Oh, that's the dream, isn't it, when you come out of the pit box? You get a nice bit of clear air in front of you. Meanwhile, dream turns to nightmare for Bonnelli. 1 second penalty for a collision.
Mate, it's been rowdy.
Stewards won't know what to do with themselves, will they?
I'm just glad they're doing some work finally. They laze about all day, so it's good to see. There they are. They're back in their little cave at the back. They like it in the dark. Don't go in there for light. They get a bit frustrated.
Did you see them with sunglasses earlier on in the regionals, actually?
So interesting, another investigation between Gallo and Bonnelli driving dangerously post-incident. What is going on out there, guys? Calm down. You can fight each other afterwards. Oh, Fraga in the pit. Look how little fuel he has. 6 litres of fuel. So he's really been pushing. He was putting everything on that strategy, wasn't he?
Look at Matt McEwen, 1 litre left. I'll tell you what, we knew he was pushing. That's time to perfection, though. Any more, he'd have been coasting back to the pits.
Could have been going out on very low fuel, so you know he's just going out using his tyre and coming straight back in again. Igor Fraga, though, he's going to put in a bit more fuel, I imagine, before leaving the pit lane. The fuel going in to the Brazilian's car as we speak. And Countryman now leading the field, I'd say comfortably. He does... will he stop again? I don't think he will. I think no, he will stop again, sorry. I forgot he put no fuel in. So he's going to come in probably this lap, go onto the soft tyre, and it's going to be a sprint to the end. He's got a really good chance of winning this one as Kokubun.
I'm really excited to see how this is all going to play out. No further action there for Valerio Gallo for driving dangerously post-incident. But Lucas Bonnelli, I should say, who is just behind him, is of course coming out of the pit lane and still is yet to serve that penalty. On board we are here with Baptiste Beauvoir, Tomoaki Yamanaka just up the road in front of him. These two drivers both on the soft compound of tyre. Beauvoir, you know that if an opportunity presents itself, he is going to go for it against Yamanaka. He's in the slipstream here, but again, not quite close enough to send one up the inside at the moment into that hairpin bend of the left-hander, but certainly looking a bit faster and a bit of a wiggle of the hips there for Yamanaka. It's going to allow Beauvoir, the Frenchman, to close up here as they come in towards the final sector over the rise and down the hill. It is Japan versus Italy then here for third place in this race. Oh, France, I should say, I beg your pardon, as Kokubun into the pits then with 9 litres of fuel left onto the soft tyres. That's his last pit stop then, surely, in this race.
It's now all hotting up. I actually cannot call this race from here. There are so many strategies in play, and they're all starting to converge now. We're all starting to get to that point where it gets fun and spicy and confusing for us here in the commentary booth. Kokubun in there will be fuel going in that car, so it's going to be a fairly long stop here for the Japanese driver. We'll see where he comes out, of course. This will be a set of tyres to the end, so he's got to take care of those tyres as well. We can't be using up too much, because towards the end of the race they might fall off. So Drummond is now leading this race. Kylian Drummond, his first ever live event, and he's now currently at the head with Yamanaka second on that strategy and Beauvoir in third. This might finally be Beauvoir's time to shine.
Fraga goes through ahead of Kokubun then here as he comes out of the pit lane, but of course Kokubun is on soft tyres. They're a bit fresher. He's got a little bit more fuel on board him, though. This is going to get really interesting here. Jose Serrano's not too far away, also on the soft compound of tyre. This is going to be a frenetic end to this race. 10 laps, 9.5 laps now remain as Beauvoir goes to the inside of Tomoaki Yamanaka and eventually does get through into second place.
Just looking at his tyre wear for Beauvoir, he, I think, can go to the end on these. I think he's made his 2 stops he has to make, being on the hard, being on the medium compound of tyre. So I think this could be to the end for him.
Be interesting, though, to see how it all works out in terms of fueling there as well. I think he's just about got enough, but we'll wait and see how it all plays out here for Baptiste Beauvoir. We look here at Kokubun with Serrano trying to close up onto the back of him, so these are the soft job runners. I tell you what, despite that penalty, Igor Fraga has been really pushing very hard. Now emerging ahead as Karatsa comes into the pit lane, no litres of fuel left, quite literally coasting to the box. We know Karatsa, of course, has had an incident-filled race, and it's not going to be, unfortunately, a podium challenge for the Brazilian.
Yeah, please ignore me. The top 3 drivers definitely do have to stop again, because they all have less than 10 litres of fuel in the tank. That will not get them to the end of the race. Who the hell is winning this thing? I'm sitting here trying to work it out. At the moment, Igor Fraga. He is looking fast. He's got no more stops to make in that soft compound tyre. He is fueled to the end, but he is 20 seconds behind Yamanaka, and more importantly, nearly 28 seconds behind Drummond and Baptiste Beauvoir. So the question is that fuel going in the car for the top 3 going to be enough for Fraga to catch back up again?
Well, we always love these races because they come to a very exciting crescendo, and you can see now as we come into the last third of this race, it is beginning to hot up. You see the competitors are watching on then down here in the hangar as we ride on board here with Jose Serrano closing up onto the back. There is the fuel usage, as Jimmy said. So Drummond, Beauvoir, Yamanaka, they're all going to have to come in again to put some fuel in their car. Otherwise, they're going to be coasting around and need a push to get to the checkered flag. So it will release Fraga into the front of this race. No surprise to see these drivers going on to the soft compound of tyre. They want to be on the quickest compound right before the end. And the crucial question is, have they built up enough of a gap to be involved in this battle for the lead as we come to the conclusion of this race?
Another set of soft tyres going on for Yamanaka. He's going to fuel it up as well. So a charge to the end for Tomoaki Yamanaka. The same for many of the drivers here as well. Here's Rich Kokubun. He's made his last stop now, so he's going to the end on the soft compound of tyres. Him versus Fraga on circuit, only 8 attempts between them. Jose Serrano there as well in the background. Where will Yamanaka come out?
He's going to be behind this lot. Absolutely for sure, that one, because he's still taking fuel on board as it goes now. So Yamanaka's going to have to really drive very hard. That 4-stop strategy, I don't know if it's going to be something that pays off for him. He comes out the pit lane, 9th place, he has got them the mother and father of all jobs to do to try and salvage something from this one.
You have to think it's the gap to Fraga we're looking at, and that's about 6-7 seconds, maybe 8 seconds. So he's got to make up 8 seconds on Igor Fraga in
second a lap, isn't it?
In 9 laps.
Yeah, second a lap there for Tomoaki Yamanaka. He is going to really have to put pedal to the metal, but you can guarantee that this man here, who is in the default race lead, because Drummond and Beauvoir owe a pit stop, and indeed they do come in now, or Drummond does at least. I think Baptiste Beauvoir will not be long behind him.
This will be really close, because bear in mind that gap between Fraga and Yamanaka is about 8-7 seconds. Drummond was about 8-7 seconds ahead, and he'll be putting in a little bit less fuel, I think, than Yamanaka, because he's got less time to the flag. Beauvoir as well. So this is going to be really tight on pit exit. Who's going to be leading from this race? This Austin Igor Fraga charges down the hill with Ryuta behind him coming up to the hairpin. Hogan Serrano there in contention as well. Drummond and Beauvoir sitting in the pits. It was like an age for them as that fuel goes in to that X 2019. Drummond has finished fueling. Where will he come out the pit lane? Here comes Igor Fraga. Let's have a look. Fraga comes by and Drummond is out ahead of Fraga. Drummond has jumped Fraga. 1.5 seconds is the gap now, and it's now a sprint to the end.
He's on fresh soft tyres, don't forget. He's going to have to get a bit of heat in him over the next couple of corners, but he's got enough of a buffer in hand. If he can keep Fraga out of slipstream range, then it's going to be absolutely crucial. So it was a win yesterday for Subaru in the Manufacturers' Cup here with Kylian Drummond, one of the drivers who was behind the wheel. Can he do the double here in the Nations Cup and keep Igor Fraga at bay? It is going to be a sprint to the checkered flag, and the advantage for Drummond is he's got fresh rubber underneath him, but the disadvantage, he's got a reigning or a Nations Cup champion from 2018 trying to challenge.
Yeah, and less than 2 seconds behind. What does that tell us? That penalty for Fraga was a night and day difference. Without that penalty, he would be leading this race right now. We told you it would be important. We told you these gaps are marginal, and that 2-second gap has really changed the landscape of this race for Fraga. So Drummond now 1.4 seconds ahead of Igor Fraga. What can Igor do on those tyres? He's got about a 5%, 6% more worn tyre than Kylian Drummond, which makes a big difference in these softs. Hokiban there as well, as is Serrano and Gallo. I think maybe that Gallo charge has fallen off somewhat, but really tight at the top here and far from being over. I think, in fact, that maybe Drummond has pulled a little bit of a gap over Igor Fraga.
It's been a brilliant strategy here from Kylian Drummond. We ride on board with Igor Fraga trying to chase him down. So we're coming towards the end of the pit window, by the way. Not that it's going to be too much of a consideration, because everybody's now in their final phase of this race. The pit lane shuts after lap 25. Nobody can come into the pit box, and we've seen a variance in strategies up and down the field. The upshot is, as we come into the conclusion of this one, every driver is now sat on the soft compound of tyre. Of course, there are varying degrees of wear depending on when they change over to them, but this is really, really exciting. We love a sprint to the finish here in the Nations Cup, and you have to think that Igor Fraga, I wonder if it might just be a bit too little, too late. I don't know if he's going to be able to close up onto the back of Drummond here.
This is going to be an amazing finish to this race. Of course, Kylian Drummond, his first ever live event here in person, and showing the skill and talent that he possesses. He was winner yesterday as part of Team Subaru in the Manufacturers' Cup, currently leading the Nations Cup Grand Final from one of the greatest Gran Turismo drivers of all time, Igor Fraga, and Ryota Kokuman behind as well, soaking up the pressure of being here at this live event, and all that stands between him now and a win here today at Salzburg is 5 laps of the Trial Mountain Circuit.
So Beauvoir gets a warning for colliding with another car. Contrasting fortunes here for the Frenchman, and you can see there as they come across the timing line between Igor Fraga and Kylian Drummond. Fraga a tenth of a second slower last time around. That gap just incrementally increasing. So good news there for him. Someone who is making ground a bit further down the order is Tomoaki Yamanaka. It may not seem that significant down in 7th place, but of course there are points to be awarded here that the drivers will carry into World Series 2, World Series 3 and the World Finals in November in Monaco there as well. I tell you what though, look at this as we see Yamanaka is getting really close to the mid-pack here. Innestrosa, Beauvoir, all involved in this nose-to-tail action.
Yamanaka has just side through all of them up into 6th place now, and now in hot pursuit of Valerio Gallo. So Yamanaka, although maybe not in it for a win, has a very fast car underneath him right now and is pushing hard to try and get onto the back of the top 5. It's about a 4-second gap, so he's got to really push from now. But if anyone can do it, it is Yamanaka. Meanwhile, at the head of the field, the gap between Drumont and Fraga is coming down slightly. Fraga is starting to pull back into the back of Kylian Drumont. I think now that the shine's gone off those soft tyres, maybe he's starting to struggle for pace compared to Igor.
Saw Kylian flirting with the edge of danger on this lap as well, so I wonder whether a couple of mistakes are starting to creep in. Of course, this isn't the position we're used to seeing here for Kylian on this world stage in the World Series Showdown. Someone who is used to that pressure is Igor Fraga. He soaks it up like an absolute sponge. Yamanaka's dropping down the order, so I wonder what's happened there to him. He's down to 9th place. Beauvoir as well, also dropping a position, so I wonder whether there was a bit of a contact between Nostroza and Baptiste and Yamanaka here.
So last lap on those worn tyres, look at those rear tyres for Igor Fraga. He's got to look after those, or it's going to be sad for him at the end of the race, but he was a 10th faster than Kylian Drumont on that last lap on that worn set of tyres. Igor Fraga has found an extra gear here. Those worn tyres don't seem to be slowing him down, but we saw what happened to Yamanaka before when he tried to push tyres too far. He spun coming out of the tunnel, but you see Igor Fraga, look how hard he's trying, pushing the car between the edges of the circuit. Any more than that, he'd end up in the wall.
Brilliant driving here from Igor Fraga, really trying to put pedal to the metal. The crucial thing is he's now within a second, so if he can keep that gap in a constant, when he comes down this back straight, he will be within slipstream range next time around. And if he can do that, and he can get hooked on to the back of Kylian Drumont, that is going to be the opportunity that he is going to need in order to be able to try and mount a challenge on the back of the Frenchman. So this is getting really exciting in the closing stages of the race. Don't forget, of course, you can vote for your Michelin driver of the day on social media. Get in touch and let us know who you think the driver is that has performed admirably out of everybody else on the field. We'll announce it on social media after the conclusion of this one, but right now the action is between the top two. That gap now down to just about a second as they come across the timing line to start lap 27.
That's right, and that there was nearly half a second faster for Igor Fraga on that last lap. Look at those rear tyres though, he is burning through them. This is going to be a race against time and tyre for Igor Fraga. Look at the speed he's carrying there onto the back of Drumont. Drumont now really starting to feel the pressure, I think, in these last few laps. It's his first time at this event. He wasn't looking quite as chilled out in the camera we had just then, looking like he's starting to feel the presence of Igor Fraga. He has a commanding presence on circuit, does the 2018 champion, and he is flexing it right now, and he gets into the slipstream of Drumont in front. 8 tenths now the gap.
This is getting really exciting. Drumont knows that. He's going to have to go defensive here, so as we come down the back straight, I don't know if Fraga's going to be close enough to set one up the inside, but maybe he's going to try and rehearse it for the last couple of laps. You can hear the crowd here. They're getting really excited for this one as we come to the crescendo of this race. It is all pressure and all eyes on Kylian Drumont and Igor Fraga for the battle for the win. And look at how close that gap is as we come down into the final sector. It is half a second between the top two. A slide there for Drumont as well. That's going to cost him a little bit of time here as we come into the last couple of corners.
I've never seen Igor look so determined. Look at the fuel! Look at the fuel! Igor Fraga is burning through his fuel as well. Drumont's got a little bit in for his car. And look now, Igor's starting to struggle. Those tyres starting to come back to bite him. I don't think he's got much more in the tank, both figuratively and literally at this point. Those tyres starting to fall off. Though on that last lap, still with that slide, he was 3 tenths of a second faster than Drumont. This will be the lap.
This is going to be it then. So here comes Fraga onto the back of Drumont. Is he going to try and send it down the inside into the hairpin? No, he can't find his way through there. He's going to be patient here as Igor Fraga. He's going to try and set it up for a good exit onto the back straight. So Drumont then on the defensive. You know he's going to have to try, but will it be in vain with Igor Fraga bearing down on him? It's not going to be quite close enough into this left-hander, but as they come onto the back straight, he's in that slipstream range, but Drumont has just been able to extend that advantage to 9 tenths of a second.
I think his tyres are gone. Through that first sector, he was nowhere compared to Drumont there. He lost about half a second in that series of corners. So, although he managed to get back 71% on that rear tyre, what were the guys saying? 70% and lower, it's going to start going away from him. Fraga having to try and play as they will. I think his tyres are gone. Fraga, the charge halts as Kilian Drumont keeps his tyres alive. I don't think he's got anything left in the tank there. And Drumont now gets a massive wave of relief on that. So the gap goes up to 1.6 seconds. This is now Drumont's race to lose.
Oh, Fraga is going to be absolutely fuming, isn't he, behind the wheel of that X2019. He's driven valiantly, but I think, as you said, it is going to be all in vain as we come then to start the penultimate lap. And the gap now up to 2 seconds. Fraga's going to be fighting for survival here, and he's only 3.5 seconds ahead of Ryota Kokubun as well, so this is getting really exciting, and fuel to consider here as well too.
Yeah, Igor Fraga had pretty much no fuel in the tank last time we saw, so he's probably cruising around, 6 litres now. Kokubun has a bit more. I wonder if Kokubun now has the chance to maybe pull up to the back of an ailing Fraga. It's not the first time Fraga's run out of fuel. I don't think he wants reminding of that, but the 2018 champion, his challenge has faltered, and the new kid, the Frenchman Kilian Drumont, holding together under pressure, and now only has a lap and a half between him and his first win in Nations Cup behind him. Serrano and Gallo. No! Into the mountain goes Valerio Gallo.
Such a shame there for Valerio. We know what the pressure can do to these drivers, and Valerio has thrown it all away from 4th place there. That's crucial for his World Series points here as well. As you can see, Drumont continuing on with a 3.5 second gap now over Igor Fraga. Keep an eye out between Kokubun and Fraga as well. Kokubun's got a bit more fuel underneath him. 2.8 seconds is the gap, and Fraga now, it goes from attacking to defending its damage limitation. Here's Beauvoir on Serrano. They're going to go toe-to-toe into the final sector of this lap. Is Beauvoir going to send it on Serrano? Yeah, he is. Up the inside, Beauvoir goes through.
Looking like a great day for our French fans right now. It just got a little bit better. Baptiste Beauvoir up into 4th place as Kilian Drumont, our leader, comes on to the last lap now. One more lap of the trial mountain circuit separates him from glory. He's got a 5-second gap to Ryota Kokubun. Fraga now falling off big time. Kokubun is catching at a rate of not 1.5 seconds now between Kokubun and Fraga.
The French commentators over the other side of the room here at Hangar 7 are going absolutely berserk, and what a drive it has been from Kilian Drumont. Look at the gap now between Fraga and Kokubun, 9/10 of a second slipstream range here for these two.
It's got nothing now, Fraga. It's got no fuel, it's got no tyres, it's got no fans, and Kokubun is so close. It's going to be down the straight. He might have saved a little bit of fuel here just for this defence.
Let's see what happens then as we come down the back straight then for the final time here. Igor Fraga, 3 litres left, but Kokubun's in the same boat as they come down. I think he's just going to have enough, at least for the time being, against Ryota Kokubun, and all he's going to do is park that car in the right place for the final sector, and Fraga will take home 2nd place and some crucial points here in the grand final for the World Series in the Nations Cup. Kokubun closing, but I think it might be a bit of a day later than $1 short unless he can send it down the inside. Is he going to have a go on Igor Fraga? Fraga parks that car perfectly on the apex. It's going to come down to the final chicane here. He has a slide coming out, and Fraga has to defend, but coming through into the final series of corners and across the line, Kilian Drumont does the double in the Nations Cup. It's his first ever win on the international stage in the Nations Cup, and it is an amazing performance from the Frenchman. Fraga does hold on for 2nd place ahead of Ryota Kokubun. What a finish to that race! What delight for Kilian Drumont! A win for Subaru yesterday in the Manufacturers' Cup. It's a win today in the Nations Cup. It is the double for the Frenchman. Delight for Drumont at Trial Mountain.
What a race for Kilian Drumont. He's come here, his first live event, and he's made the 2021 Nations Cup champion and the 2018 Nations Cup champion look slow in comparison. What a race for Kilian Drumont. A valiant effort, to be fair to him, for Igor Fraga. Just ran out of tyres, and great to see there that sportsmanship at the end. But everyone there lining up to congratulate our Nations Cup winner here at Salzburg, Kilian Drumont.
That was absolutely amazing. Great to see Danny Stollers, one of the first drivers up on the podium, his Subaru teammate, and Kilian Drumont. Well, is this the changing of the guard in the GT World Series? Drumont takes the spoils then here. Wow, that was absolutely amazing. I think I've lost my voice after that one, you know, JB.
I'm good. Well, I mean, like, that was just action-packed. I mean, we tend to have sometimes of these longer races, they tend to be a bit quieter, a bit cooler. There was no quiet period in that race. Halfway through, everyone decided they wanted to crash into each other. We saw people trying four-stop strategies. We saw people lunging up the inside, people running out of fuel nearly, and what an amazing series of races that was and overtakes. Here are a couple of highlights from that. Early on, of course, we had Karatsa, one of the people who suffered a bit there in that race. Karatsa got taken out early on by Igor Fraga, and that penalty would prove costly for him.
Certainly would do. You can see there was lots of action further down the field, and Usman up the sharp end as well as Yamanaka spun it round. It cost him very dear. The strategy didn't quite work out for him. It left him with a lot of work to do. Karatsa also in the wars in that race as well, and Igor Fraga being given a penalty, which you'd never know. It cost him a lot of time. It might have just given him that bit more breathing room, and maybe that was the difference.
Yeah, really awesome to see Kylian Drummond take advantage of that, and it did make the difference because when he came out the pit lane, the gap was less. There was actually a move made there by Fraga, and his tyres fell off, and he found himself having to defend from Richard right at the end there. Luckily for him, just about managed to hold on. Drummond, of course, taking the win there from Fraga, from countryman, our top three here in Nations Cup.
Look at this. Look at that. I love that. That's what you don't get to see when we've been able to do these events online. The emotion, the outpouring of it here on this international stage. Kylian Drummond takes a fine victory in the Nations Cup World Series Showdown from Igor Fraga and Ryota Kokkonen. Baptiste Beauvoir, great race from him up in P4 ahead of Serrano, Lucas Bonnelli, Tomoaki Yamanaka. What might have been, could he have been involved in that action if it wasn't for that spin?
Yeah, same for Valerio Gallo as well. A night to forget for the 2021 Nations Cup champion. And Matt McEwen, of course, ending off our finishes there. But that was an amazing race. I'm still trying to just process it all.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was just mega, wasn't it? I mean, there was, like you say, action up and down the field wherever you looked as well. And I think there will be delight for some drivers. There'll be frustration for other drivers. I'm thinking Adriano Karatsa. He'll be wondering what might have been Tomoaki Yamanaka as well. You know, again, drivers who had pace, had performance underneath them, but just didn't have the fortune on their side.
I'm just so happy about doing these live events. I can't tell you the vibe during those last few laps in here. It was so tense. Everyone's on the edge of their seat, and it was so nice to see a relative newcomer pretty much come out of nowhere and do the double. Manufacturers' Cup yesterday, Nations Cup today. There's really been no stopping Kylian Drummond this weekend, has there? He's been on fire.
Exactly, and if he can continue riding that crest of a wave into World Series 2, World Series 3, and even the Grand Finals as well, who knows, we may have a possible new champion-elect on our hands here.
I'm trying to think what a move of the race would be. I think the race-defining moment was probably when Fraga got that penalty, because it made him push harder. He ran out of fuel, he used his tyre, and we saw when he came out the pit lane, or when Drummond came out the pit lane, he was only a second and a half in front of Fraga, so that would have been reversed by 0.5, and Fraga would have had the lead. So it just goes to show at this level it only takes one mistake.
Absolutely. Well, Kylian Drummond is the winner of the Nations Cup World Series Showdown here. He is over talking to Julia. Let's get his thoughts after doing the double in Salzburg.
Yes, so I'm joined by a man of the day, of the weekend, of the year, Kylian Drummond. Wow. So, just a little bit like normally when I watch a race, like I like make some notes. There's like 5 pages of notes from that one race. How do you feel? You have no sweat. There's not one drop of sweat on him. That's amazing. You're so relaxed.
Yeah, I'm chill, yeah. Chill.
Yeah?
A little bit.
Yeah?
But, you know.
Yeah?
Yeah.
A little bit?
Yeah.
But you can still drive, so that's okay?
Yeah, yeah. I'm very, yeah, I don't have for that.
So maybe we can talk a little bit. Did you plan your strategy beforehand? Because this was some crazy strategy. Yeah. We had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, I did the best strategy for the race, like 5 laps on part, and go on the mediums.
Yeah.
And save a little bit the fuel, but not too much, because I want to be a good pace.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is that good?
And and for the last stint, two pace on the soft tires, and of the pit, I need to refuel a little bit. So on the track, I push to the limit.
Yeah. I mean, I would have thought, in my mind, you know, having competed a lot, you know, like at home or raced a lot at home, you know, coming here on this stage would be difficult or stressful. but apparently it's totally fine. You're like, whatever, you know. Right?
Yeah, I take the race for chill. So chill. I follow my strategy and my pace. I try to get a better pace, and that's it.
Okay, so I think some of the guys at home would probably, what viewers at home would love to know, how intense was it having Igor Fraga like nipping at your feet? I was stressed for you.
I see Fraga behind me, and I see I need to save the fuel.
Yeah.
So, what
do you do?
And I play with the my fuel.
Yeah.
On the corners.
Yeah.
I see Fraga reduce the gap of me.
It was.
Yeah, but
he was like right at your feet.
And
and you just have to like just try to forget he's there.
And on my head, he say just chill. P2 is too good because behind the Fraga the gap is very long. P2 is good, but P1 you can. So
you are very zen.
Yeah.
You're very chilled. I feel like this has done you really well. I mean, so as this is your first event.
Yeah, so crazy for me.
Come on, this is ridiculous. Your first event, you've walked away with two titles. I mean, to anyone out there who is a Gran Turismo fan, can you explain to them what that feels like?
It's so crazy for me. I don't have the word for a lot of emotion. I work a lot for this.
Yeah.
And just quite. Yeah.
No, it's okay. There's too many words.
So much emotion. So
no, it's
sorry,
okay.
Sorry.
It's no problem at all. Look, huge congratulations. Have a big round of applause for Kylian. It's amazing work this weekend. And congratulations. And let's throw it back to Tom and Jimmy. Let's give them their podium finish that they deserve.
Wow. I mean, Kylian Drumont there, you can see the emotion, quite literally lost for words.
I thought it was interesting to see like him shaking, because I've had that in sim as well. Your body sort of locks up and you're like, right, okay, I've got to really be precise with everything here. And
point rankings.
Interesting to see him come through. Yeah, so here's how that affects the point rankings for now. So Igor Fraga, despite second place there, goes up, or stays in first place. Kylian Drumont with a win goes into second, Kokubun into third. Lucas Bonnelli maintains fourth position. Beauvoir goes into fifth, Serrano sixth. And our last point scorer, of course, who's not here today, Takuma Miyazono in seventh. And of course, most importantly, Valerio Gallo, 2021 champion on 0.
Yeah, that is very, very difficult a pill to swallow for Valerio Gallo there. Unfortunately for him, not a good start to his 2022 title defence. We haven't had a driver manage to do 2 consecutive titles yet, so...
No, we haven't, have we? It is difficult. As we say, the strength of field here is unreal. And I think that race kind of proved it, because for the majority, we were kind of like, I don't really know who's going to come away with this. But I think, in the end, the person, the best person won. I think Kylian's been fantastic all weekend, and I think that, just despite the pressure of being here for the first time, it just didn't seem to faze him. It's really impressive.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. Let's get the podium celebrations then underway, shall we, for our Nations Cup competitors here at the Rebel Hangar 7 in Salzburg. We're about ready for our drivers to end up on the top 3 steps. In third place, please welcome onto the stage from Japan, Ryota Kokubun. Great drive from Ryota to take third place and some crucial points for the World Series. In second place, onto the stage, please welcome from Brazil, Igor Fraga. And in his first ever Gran Turismo World Series event, he takes victory on his debut. Please welcome on stage from France, Kylian Drumont! Ladies and gentlemen, your respect please now for the national anthem of France. The national anthem of France plays out for the winner of the World Series Showdown in the Nations Cup for Kylian Drumont. And now it is time for the trophies to be presented to our top 3 finishers. Please welcome the third place trophy presented by Rudolf Herdoffer from Red Bull Hangar 7. It is presented to our third place finisher, Ryota Kokoman from Japan. The second place trophy is presented by Genesis chief designer John Grzyszewski, and it is presented to our second place finisher in the Nations Cup, to Igor Fraga from Brazil. And the winner's trophy is presented by the head of Michelin Motorsport, Mathieu Bonardel, and it is awarded to our winner from the Nations Cup from France, Kylian Drumont!
Wow. Okay. Now, normally, right, let's just get to it. Normally, during a race, all right, like a couple of cards of note. I literally wrote like a Dostoevsky novel of things that happened. It's since the, I mean, you can't read it because it's my handwriting, obviously, but that was an awful lot of stuff going on there. That was bonkers.
Yeah, really amazing race that. I mean, I know it's easy to say that standing on the desk, like, oh, an amazing race, but you know, we were sort of standing here half and thinking, who the hell's going to win this then? And then suddenly we see Drumont sort of come out of the pack and just walk away. Of course, had Fraga challenging him at the end, but it's so great to see. It's a popular victory. It was so, it was fun to see Baptiste get up. I think he's been waiting to get that top step for a while, hasn't he? So he took his chance to get up there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. You know, this is his first competition. Obviously, hustler. Like, come on, you can't be winning both.
But if you wrote a movie about that, you'd need a sequel that'd be so blooming long, wouldn't it? There was everything going on there.
I mean, we've seen an awful lot of races in our tenure here at Gran Turismo, but I have to say that's, I mean, end of Sydney also was pretty close, but that was just so many moving parts. It was like riveting.
I think that's my favourite one so far.
I'd love the word riveting as well, so I'm so glad you used that. It was riveting.
Yeah. Do you have any? I think it was so amazing, and yeah, it was definitely a favourite here of everyone to see Kylian do sort of well. He's so casual. He's just like just be chill, don't worry about it. I mean, that's all very well.
Advice we should all apply in life, isn't it?
But it's all very well in theory. It's all very well in theory. When you got Igor Fraga like coming up and like nipping your heels, it's kind of a bit of a challenge. But honestly, you have just witnessed one of the best races I think we've ever seen here in the Gran Turismo calendar, and that just kind of makes me really excited for the rest of the year. It's going to be great. We've had a lovely time, but also don't forget you can vote for the Michelin Driver of the Day, although I kind of feel like we might know what the answer is to that one, but please do feel free to vote. And yeah, don't forget, of course, we have got round 2 and round 3 coming up in September and October, the online heats. And then, of course, very exciting. Go on, Tom, tell us what's happening at the end of the year.
Monaco, baby!
Yes, he's very excited about Monaco. We're all very excited about Monaco. So yeah, do stay in touch with this, keep watching. As you can see, we have got some of the best sim racers in the world here competing, and as the level has been increasing, Jimmy, what do you think? I mean, it's only going to start hotting up. It's only going to get a little bit more interesting.
I mean, when you're forcing Igor Fraga into mistakes and into bad strategy calls, and I think that shows you just how high the level is now, and I think it's only going to get better.
I couldn't agree more. Do you concur, Tom?
I do indeed concur. I'm going to find a thesaurus and get some more words for the next time we do this.
No, it's all right. Stick with what you got. It works well. Well, look, thank you so much for joining us, to all the competitors, all the team and everyone who put on this event, and everyone here at Hangar 7 in Salzburg. So from Tom and from Jimmy, I don't know why I did it the wrong way around there, wrong ones. And it's good night from us, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
PlayStation